to make a few modifications to the ball to make it a bit more effective. Around this time, an American chemist had just created something called vulcanized rubber. Out of that, people started developing air-filled rubber balls, which were properly bouncy, but either red or grey in colour. These were manufactured in Melton Mowbray. That's right, the home of the pork pie. One problem, the balls kept on breaking on impacts with the racket. The call of new balls please seemingly coming over every other point. Step forward English lawyer and tennis enthusiast John Moyer Heathcote, who suggested balls be covered in flannel to stop them from degrading. And thus the modern-day tennis ball was born. But these were white or black, so how did they become yellow? Well, in 1967, the controller of BBC Two, one Sir David Attenborough, decided the corporation should show Wimbledon on colour TV. He got his wish and it was wide into people's homes across the country. The only sticking point, the white balls were nearly impossible to see on the screen. So the International Tennis Federation, sensing an opportunity, started developing a new ball that would be visible even without the need for 4K LED displays. Not that anyone had that in the late 60s. After rigorous testing, they came up with the colour Optic Yellow and decided every ball be coated in that colour from there on in. And there you have it. Tennis balls are yellow, all because Sir David Attenborough wanted to watch Wimbledon from the comfort of his own front room. You could say the ITF aced it.
Good evening. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. I'm Natalie, Sawyer, and alongside me this Thursday evening, it is the former Chelsea defender Scott Minto. Coming up, we are going to discuss Ange Postecoglou's appointment at Nottingham Forest. Is he the right man to replace Nuno Espirito Santo? And does his hire go to prove that managers are losing their importance at football clubs? Why don't you have your say? You can join us on the show. You can call us on 03717 223344. Elsewhere, we're going to discuss England's selection headache after their dominant 5-0 victory over Serbia on Tuesday. Where do the results in this international break leave the players who weren't selected? Can some of the missing superstars, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Jude Bellingham, come straight back in? And should they? The Premier League returns this weekend and there's loads to get into. Who will prevail in the Manchester derby? And will Ange get off to a winning start when Forest visit the Emirates? Plus, we'll discuss the controversial enhanced games. Is there a part of you that is curious to see it? And should a games where doping is not only allowed but encouraged even be going ahead in the first place? So much to get through, and of course we want to hear from you. Like I mentioned, 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on to join us on Kickoff this Thursday evening on talkSPORT. Scott Minto, how you doing?
Natalie Sawyer, very well. How are you?
We've got the formalities out the way there.
We have indeed, yeah. You were telling me what you do with a badly behaved dog earlier on, weren't you?
No, it was the first time. I've never done it before.
Are you sure?
No, I promise you. So, yes, my dog was a rascal today. I promise you. Anything I was doing, he was just getting in the way and causing all sorts of problems and getting around my feet.
He was saying you were doing the same.
I know, probably he would. Normally, if he's a bad boy, we put him just in the bathroom in general.
Okay.
Just lock him in there so I can get on with quickly what I need to do, get stuff done. But even that, when I had to be in the bathroom to do stuff,
getting in your way.
It was getting in my way. So in the end, I thought, I'm just going to pick him up and put him in the bath. Now, there's no water, but obviously his little paws, he was like scrabbling to get out. I know it sounds mean, but I had to just so he could just not get in my way. Did it for like 5 minutes, and then he worked out he could jump out, so that didn't work for very long. Yeah.
Okay.
But he was an absolute rascal.
Okay. Hopefully the RSPCA aren't.
Oh, don't say.
No, I'm joking. No, listen. I do. I've got 2 cockapoos.
Yes.
So normally they're good as gold, but if they're not, we kind of just put them outside for a bit and let them bark outside.
I know. And you forgive them instantly though, because they're just beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah,
dogs?
Yeah, absolutely. We could go. This is a
great way to
sports
start.
show, isn't it? I was going to go.
Well,
it's still a lot easier than kids.
The
but
Crofts is a sports show, no?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, okay. No, we're going to move on. We're going to start this hour by talking about the return to the Premier League of this man.
I always had a very good relationship with the owner. This season, not so well.
His future is unclear.
Nuno Espirito Santo sacked by Nottingham Forest and is ready to accept the job, ready to return to the Premier League.
Tottenham end the season 17th in the Premier League.
I'll tell you one thing, I'm not a clown. I never will be, mate.
It's glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur. The Europa League is theirs. He told you, he always wins something in his second season.
Whether he's going to have learnt lessons from Tottenham, he'll have the same challenges. Nottingham Forest are looking upwards. Marinakis is no easy person to work for.
I don't get how you can have Ange, because the style of football is so fundamentally different.
Do you have to change it a bit to win?
Does that suit Forest with their counter-attack method of play? That's my question mark with Ange.
I'll leave you with this. All the best television series, Season 3 is better than Season 2.
Some of the voices of talkSPORT, they're giving their view on the appointment then of Ange Postecoglou, Scott. And but I suppose before we get into his appointment, let's just quickly talk about the Nuno Espirito Santo side of things. This was a news that broke in the middle of, early morning, just gone midnight, I think it was really when it broke.
Alex Crook was in bed, wasn't he? He kept on telling us at the time. But the Trojan that he is, he got out of bed.
You see, that's what you do when you're the chief football correspondent.
Absolutely.
That's what you needed to do. But it surprised everyone with the timing, etc. of it. But I'm led to believe it all came down to because of leaks in Portugal, and they just wanted to make sure that they got the story out there before it really blew up, before they had their own word on it, Nottingham Forest. But what did you make, first of all, of the decision to sack Nuno Espirito Santo, who has done so well at Forest?
First and foremost, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Nottingham Forest fans because I'm not a Forest fan, but I think it's a real shame. I think when you think about how far Forest have come, obviously Steve Cooper, the great job that he did, but then the way that Nuno sort of took them on, and many people last season were saying not just there'd be relegation candidates again, but that they would go down. And what a season they had last season. Yes, they fell away towards the end, but still they qualified enough for Europa League. Okay, Palace fans don't ever go at me there, but they're in the Europa League. I think it was always going to happen once he came out, and he knew what he was doing.
An element of calculation.
Absolutely. Look, he did so well last season. I think everyone was... I remember going to the Manchester City game and working on that one, and Forest won 1-0. And there was a real unison with a real synergy with the fans and the players and the manager, and it felt like Nottingham Forest were back. And yeah, as I say, okay, they fell away a little bit and didn't quite get in the Champions League. But the job that Nuno did was nothing short of sensational. I believe it's all to do with Edu. Now, that's to do with Marinakis. But the fact that there was a third person in the relationship, I think that clearly he thought, I don't want that. And then he said what he said. And I remember speaking to Sam Matterface on Game Day Live on a couple of Sundays ago. And I said, there's only one winner here. And it was always going to be the case. But Nuno knew what he was doing. It's just because he's, call it principled, call it proud, call it ego, call it what you want. Sometimes a strength can be a weakness and vice versa. That pride said, I'm sorry, if I can't get, and I don't think all these players that have come in, I wonder what percentage of players he would have actually chosen and how many of them were Edu. And he didn't like the way it was going. So I think it's a real shame. I mean, it's interesting, actually. They were kind of thought and seen to be, and definitely were last season, a counter-attacking, sit back and then go at pace.
Very
but this season, actually, they're second with the most high-intensity pressures in the final third. And they've also made the most passes ending in the final third and the most passes into the box of any Premier League side this season. So actually...
Very different then.
It's very different already.
Yeah.
Now, that was a really poor result against West Ham, but still the style is different, or was different under Nuno to how it was last season. So it's almost evolving already. So in terms of Ange, go on, you were going to interrupt.
Well, I was going to say then, it sounds like it's perfectly opened the door then for Ange, the stats you're referring to.
Well, I think that's what Marinakis wanted and Edu wants. You know, they want that sort of attacking, free-flowing football, which, I mean, whatever you say about Ange Postecoglou, and he did tweak it. I think it's slightly unfair to say he's only one way of playing, because you look at the Europa League final and actually the manager who was the most adaptable was Ange Postecoglou, not Ruben Amorim, and they won, Spurs, because of that. think about the semi-final where, and how they defended well and got a great result away from home. And then in the quarter-final as well, the final itself, keeping a clean sheet against what was a really poor Manchester United side. I mean, they were the least worst out of the two, weren't they? That's what it was. But they won the Europa League, and he can turn around and say, I won a trophy in my second season. So, he did tweak the style a little bit. So we're already seeing Nottingham Forest this particular season with a little bit of a different style under Nuno. I do think it's a shame that he wasn't able to see it out, but there was always going to be one winner. I am slightly surprised that is Ange in, and he said he won't change, but he has to. So I am fascinating that to see how the next sort of 6 weeks are going to go, and the style of football, both home and away, against the big boys, against the smaller boys. Is it all one way? Is it all the same style? Or is it going to be tweaked depending on who they're coming up against?
It is an appointment that took, I think, something like 13 hours after the statement came out that they had sacked Nuno Espirito Santo.
It was already sorted.
Oh, of course it was.
Already arranged.
Hence why it was so quick.
Absolutely.
For the second statement to come out that confirmed that Ange Postecoglou was the new boss of Nottingham Forest. Well, he's held his first pre-match news conference. In fact, his unveiling news conference as well. He spoke to our reporter Max Scott about whether he has a point to prove then after his unceremonious departure from Spurs.
I don't see it as a point to prove. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I really believe that, like the football club, that you just, you let your kind of actions speak for themselves, and you present yourself and understand the responsibility you have both as a manager and the football club has to provide joy to the most important people, and that is the supporters. That's why football clubs exist. They don't exist for any other reason. I know sometimes, especially in the Premier League, we think they do. It's about the money or the exposure or the fame, but it's just about bringing joy to the people who, are the lifeblood of this game. And I'm not into proving people wrong. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing because it brings joy to people and allows me to live my dreams.
And you said in your interview with the club that was released last night, you said, I love my teams to attack, score goals. This is sometimes misconstrued as me playing one way. Why do you think people feel that way? And what are they missing?
They're missing everything because they're not watching what I do, And, I do love my teams to attack. I do love my teams to score goals. But the one constant in my career is that everywhere I've been, I've won things. So, and sometimes that's taken, it's all done in a slightly different way. The principles are all the same. But I'm never going to go away from, I want my teams to play football that's exciting and gets people talking. And for you guys, I'm sure you don't want to see, 20 teams all playing the same way. What's the point? So, from my perspective, I always try and do things a little bit differently.
I think one of the key things that Forest fans will love from that is how he kept talking about bringing joy to the people, joy to the fans. And you're right about Nuno, the bond that he had built with those fans, the unity that they all had when you consider a lot of the off-field issues that surrounded Forest with some of their statements that they put out when they were unhappy with certain things. It kind of meant it was a them versus us mentality, and they'll want that with Ange too.
They will, and he's absolutely right to say he wants to bring the fans joy, but the way to bring fans joy is to win games. And then how do you win the games? Again, we go back to that style. I mean, look, first game up, Arsenal away.
Yeah, it's not the easiest.
Are they really going to play a high line with Mourinho and Milenkovic? 50 yards away from goal? I'd be very surprised if that's the case. And if they do, I'm not sure they'll be getting off to a very good performance and a very good result on scoreline. Look, I think the fans are 100% with Marinakis. What he's done since he's taken over, from where they were to where they are, again, that's an amazing overseeing of what's gone on. But if things don't go well, I'm not saying they'll have a go at Marinakis. I'm not sure everybody's 100% behind the Ange appointment. So it could get quite difficult if they don't start off pretty well. I look at the games that they've got. They can nick a point at Arsenal. It's a brilliant point. They've got Swansea away in the League Cup. They've got Burnley away, Betis away, and then Sunderland at home in September. There's a lot of games there, and there's a combination of having to deal with Europe and the Premier League as well. That's not an easy thing to do, as well as the League Cup. But if they can win those league games, even if they don't win against Arsenal, if they can win against Burnley away and Sunderland at home, then I think that would represent a very good start to the campaign for Ange.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite an intriguing one that he goes to the Emirates in his first game in its life on talkSPORT, the 12:30 game day, lunchtime exclusive on Saturday. One then will be fully across for you. But yeah, Ange Postecoglou, didn't take him long. What's it, 4 months since his sacking from Tottenham? Did not take him long to get back into Premier League action. And as we know, he always does deliver a trophy. It's whether or not he can do it in his first season rather than his second would be interesting.
Let's not get greedy.
Oh, well, Forest fans want to be greedy. Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
Okay.
Especially with Europa League, you never know. Listen, we'll bring you more on this one because it is a fascinating development at Forest, and we're going to bring you the Greek football perspective on all of this with the writer Stephen Contourou on how Postecoglou's appointment's being viewed in Greece. But you too can have your say. 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on this evening. You're tuning in to Kick Off with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org. You're tuning in to Kick Off on talkSPORT with the former Chelsea and Benfica defender Scott Minto and me, Natalie Sawyer. And time is ticking. Under 2 weeks to go, in fact, for you to win a chance of £25,000 and tickets to Oasis' final Wembley gig. You might want a pen and paper handy for this one. It is our biggest competition yet. Don't look back in anger, they say. Well, here's how to enter.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word Oasis to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission. Or you can enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by the 19th of September at 9 a.m. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Best of luck. You know what happens when you give something away and then I'm now getting horrible messages.
I know.
Mac,
Well,
I understand. Go on.
First of all, I just want to just say that there's, where is it? Dave from Tewkesbury. If anyone thinks Postecoglou will win trophies with Forest, absolute deluded clown.
Oh,
great to hear you in that, Sky. That's from Dave. I've got to read this out, embarrass you a little bit. I listened to talkSPORT.
Oh no, don't read that.
You've just moved it. 16 hours a day. Natalie Sawyer's refreshing, brilliant voice, person to have in the afternoon and evenings. More of this, please, Rich. From the he's an Aston Villa fan, but member Rich Sawyer. No, I'm joking. But yeah,
very kind there, Rich.
From Mac.
Go on, you read it out, and then I'll counter it, Mac. I'm not a terrible pet owner,
and I'm sure it's like Natalie.
Yeah, I know.
The only reason your dog is under your feet is because he wants your company.
Yes,
and wants to be with you, and to reward you. Rewards this, you lock him in the room by himself. Terrible.
Well, Mac,
that's for Mac.
I would understand that point of view if I didn't know my own dog, but I know my own dog, and I know when he wants company and when he's just being a rascal. And when you're trying to clean a room like I was trying to do, and he's trying to grab the broom, trying to grab the hoover, just anything, even rearranging the cushions, he's straight on the couch trying to stop me. He was just being a rascal today, and he does it every now and then, just every now and then.
Mac, I'm with you.
No, I know my dog very well, thank you. And I know when he wants attention for the right reasons. That earlier on today, he was just being a little pain. But, well, you know, I appreciate you advising me, Mac, but I promise you I do know my dog. But anyway, we're going to continue our Ange Postecoglou and Forest chat in just a moment. But right now, it's time for us to bring you an odds update with Ladbrokes.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Evening, Cal Gilder. How you doing, Cal?
Hi there. I'm great. Thank you. Yourselves?
Yes, we are very, very well, and pumped that the Premier League is back this weekend. Although, you know, the international break in terms of England ended all right with that 5-0 win over Serbia, it always feels like a bit of a drag, doesn't it, the international breaks?
Yeah.
So, yeah, delighted to have the football back. It's the Premier League Championship and any other games that were obviously postponed the last weekend. Let's focus, shall we, on that 12:30 kickoff. We've been talking about Forest and Ange Postecoglou. He takes his side to Arsenal, Cal.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ange, the odds and history suggest it's not going to be a good start on his return to North London. Arsenal are 5-2 on, Forest are 13-2, and the draw is about 4-1. And look, even at odds on, I think Arsenal are decent value there. They're a touch over evens to win both halves, which looks good to me given Forest haven't won at Arsenal since 1989. As Scott said just before, Postecoglou did show, didn't he, in last season's Europa League final that he's happy to switch it up to get a result. But does curbing his attacking instinct immediately send out the wrong message? You know, and Arsenal, they've averaged more than 3 goals a game over their past 6 against Forest at home. So if Postecoglou sticks to his principles, Arsenal and over 3.5 goals at 12-5 looks good. Throw in Noni Madueke to continue his goal-scoring form and both teams not to score. So I think Arsenal will score, but Forest won't, unfortunately, for their fans. You'll get 15-1 for that in a bet builder.
Ooh, okay. That's not a bad one. What do you think, Scott?
It's decent.
Yeah.
More than decent. Yeah.
Okay. What about the Manchester derby that is taking place this weekend as well?
Yeah, City are the 7-10 favourites. The draw's 3-1 and United are 100-30. It's a fascinating game, though, this, in terms of not knowing what you're going to get. You know, City to get back on track with an all-too-common 4-1 pasting. That's just 18-1. A 2-1 United win at 12-1. Both of them feel equally likely to me. You know, even before City with the Gorta and Galacticos, I was never confident ahead of the derby. But regardless of City having the better of it in recent years, did you know United are responsible for a quarter of Pep Guardiola's Premier League home defeats?
Oh,
so
I was not aware of that.
Well, I think our punters might have been, because United to win is the most back market for this one. But I just can't see City losing 3 of the first 4 matches for the first time in 30 years. How many of United's games under Ruben Amorim have seen them play all right before conceding a highly preventable goal? Erling Haaland got 5 the other night. On Sunday, it's 22-1 that he scores the only goal in a 1-0 win for City.
Okay, and a 1-0 win? So okay,
1-0
not
win.
much in that one. Okay. It's interesting, isn't it? And we will talk more about the Manchester derby, but everyone's still talking about it's all going wrong at United. It's not right. They're not gelling. And yet, is it not going wrong at City? They've two defeats.
I think what Cal just said about being vulnerable, you can set it for both sides.
Yes.
Defensively,
Yeah.
I personally think there'll be goals for both teams.
More than the one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Cal, while you're on, why don't we talk about the Premier League title race and then relegation odds?
Yeah, well, with relegation at the moment, we just mentioned them before, but something that really stood out to me the other day in the aftermath of Postecoglou's appointment was their relegation odds. They went from 10-1 to 7-1, so that was quite a cut, but they're still nowhere near the favourites to go down. We've got Burnley at 3-10, followed by Sunderland at 4-5, though Sunderland were the same price as Burnley before the season started. The biggest interesting point for me there is after the first 3 games, Wolves are now not only seen as the third favourites to go down ahead of Leeds. Leeds are about evens, but Wolves are also odds on for the drop at 5-6 with Ladbrokes.
Ooh, nervy times for Wolves, that is for sure. What about Villa? Have you got Villa in there? I'm not expecting them to go down at all, but they're in the no, because they're in the relegation zone as things stand. They haven't scored a goal. I was just curious, that's all. I don't expect them to go down. I just want to know, that's all. I don't want them to go. I'm not saying that.
I've got my sports book up here. We've got Villa at 28-1 to go down, which is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they're seen as the 12th or 13th most likely team to go down.
I don't think they're going to. Obviously, they're not going to go down. I don't expect that. I'm just thinking about the Premier League table as it is. That's all. And I think they make up the bottom 3, having not scored a goal. That's all the reason I was asking. That's all, Cal. There's no agenda there, just in case any Villa fans come for me. I promise you.
You've just had praise from that Villa fan before.
Oh, I know. Oh, my gosh. Rich, I'm going to upset you there.
True, yeah.
I'm so sorry, Rich.
Listen, they'll be absolutely fine. My worry is that they won't even finish in a European place. They've got a great manager. Obviously, still very good players. Morgan Rogers coming off the back of a wonderful England performance. Ollie Watkins I really like, despite him not starting well. And Harvey Elliott, I think, is a really good loan signing. So they won't be bottom half, but will they be top 6, top 7, which is what they should be aiming for every year?
Well, in our market they're 7-2 for a top 6 finish, which puts them 9th in the table.
Oh, right, there we go.
Interesting.
Thank you, Cal, as always. Much appreciated. I should say, to make up the bottom 3, didn't ask about Fulham, but they are in the relegation zone. As things stand, but it's early. It's early. And I just wanted
absolutely fine as well. I was at Stamford Bridge with that. As much as I've got my Chelsea hat on almost all times, disgraceful, disallowed goal for Josh King. And they played really well, actually. So they'll be absolutely fine as well.
Yes, I know. I'm just throwing it out there, that's all. Anyhow, right, as I say, that was all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. Please do gamble responsibly.
Odds update on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
OK, up next, we'll speak to a Greek football writer to discuss Evangelos Marinakis appointing Ange Postecoglou at Forest. You're tuning in to Kickoff with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org.
pads are a footballer's best friend. Even if players like Jack Grealish do wear such small ones you can barely even see them. But what's the story with shin pads, and are there actually any rules on how big they should be? It all started with cricket, actually. Cricketers had been wearing shin pads since the 1700s. It was thanks to this guy that shin protection made its way over to football. Meet Samuel Widdowson. He was a cricketer and a footballer. He played for Nottingham Forest back in the late 1800s, and he wanted a way to protect his legs from nasty tackles. Naturally, his mind drifted to his other favourite sport, where players had been wearing these pads for a century. Story goes, Widdowson cut up his cricket pads and popped them on before taking to the footy pitch. His Nottingham Forest team then began wearing them from 1887, and the first known use of them in a match was in 1894, in a match between Newcastle and the then Woolwich Arsenal. Eventually, FIFA clocked on that this kind of protection was pretty important for footballers. And so, in 1990, basically 100 years after Widdowson first put them on, shin pads were made compulsory. It became part of Law 4 of IFAB. That's the body responsible for setting the laws of the game internationally. But the law doesn't actually specify anything about measurements of shin pads. It just says they must be made of a suitable material and be of an appropriate size to provide reasonable protection. It's really vague, even though there have been calls for it to be changed. But for now, that's why Grealish and co can still get away with these ones, which are no bigger than a credit card and which seem to offer little.
You're tuning in to kick off on talkSPORT with the former Charlton defender Scott Minto and me, Natalie Sawyer. We're taking you through until 10 this evening. Here are some of your headlines. Chelsea have been hit with 74 charges by the Football Association for alleged rule breaches. They relate to regulations surrounding agents, intermediaries and third-party investment in players. Former Burnley captain Josh Brownhill has signed for the Saudi Pro League side Al Shabab. The 29-year-old was a free agent after leaving Turf Moor at the end of last season, where he scored 18 goals as they secured promotion back to the Premier League. And Josh King has won Fulham's Goal of the Month competition for August, despite his strike against Chelsea in the Premier League being disallowed. The 18-year-old was denied a memorable moment at Stamford Bridge after that VAR ruling decided there was a foul in the build-up to that goal. But Fulham decided they were still going to include it in their Goal of the Month. And he's won it probably by a landslide, I imagine.
Yeah.
You can't blame him, can you, really?
Not at all. I mean, it was just a brilliant goal. It was a great bit of skill. It wasn't even a challenge, let alone a careless challenge.
It was a great team goal, essentially, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And a little bit of skill. I was sort of saying defensively, you can't allow him to come back on his right foot. But for the 18-year-old lad who is in there in front of Emil Smith-Rowe and has been given a lot of confidence by his manager, clearly, and you can see why. It was a wonderful finish. Look, again, I'm personally kind of glad that it wasn't allowed, but it's so wrong.
With your Chelsea hat on.
Absolutely. So wrong. And I said, I was working for Chelsea TV on so you can be as biased as you want, really. But I said, no, that's absolutely disgraceful decision. That's one of the worst ones.
Oh, you didn't call it a foul at the time?
No.
No, you saw it as
absolutely
an unfair VAR.
Listen, it was a great goal, and one that Josh King should be able to walk away and say, that was my first senior goal at Stamford Bridge against the world champions.
I know. Oh, well, the good news is, as we know, I say good news, it's not good news for Josh King or for Fulham, the fact that the PGMOL, or PGMO, I should say, because they've dropped the L, have said that VAR should not have intervened in that one. And even when you hear the audio between all of the referees, you can hear the on-field referee believing it's fine. It's a coming together of the players.
Then he's got to be stronger.
I know.
And you know what? Again, I was trying to look for any sort of positive and a negative, and maybe this will give the referees a little bit more confidence to stick with their initial decisions.
Yeah, that would be.
I do feel that once they're sort of sent over, they're not really thinking clearly. They're being told by 4 or 5 people that how you've made the wrong decision. The first sort of thing you see on the screen can sometimes be a still, which is the worst possible thing. Suddenly they're thinking, what if I stick with my decision and I'm seen to be wrong? I could be castigated even more, so I'll go with the herd almost.
Well, of course, because they're thinking, well, if all of them think it's a foul and I've missed it, I must be in the wrong.
Well, we saw at the weekend, didn't we? The Scotland game, the referee sticking with it.
Yeah, which was brilliant. That was for the red card potential, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. And we just need to see a bit more of that. We have seen it occasionally in the Premier League, but just not enough, really. Okay, before we talk to our Greek football expert about the appointment of Ange Postecoglou then at Nottingham Forest, here's what Postecoglou had to say about his relationship with the Forest owner, Evangelos Marinakis.
I don't know, mate. I've only met him a few times, and I just said yes to him. So, look, I think Yeah, I think people have sort of, have the kind of existence that he has. It's very hard for us to relate to. But like I said, the one thing about him is that people can't deny is that I think he's taken over this football club with the right intentions. It wasn't a vehicle for people to sort of find out who he is or for him to kind of, thrust himself into the spotlight. He wants to have a team that wins things. It's not easier, but, you can go into London, take one of the big clubs, buy one of the big clubs, and you're already guaranteed success. I love the fact that he's picked up, like I said, a club, a fantastic history, but they're in the Championship, and he's taken them back into Europe. I think there's some real merit there, and I think that tells you enough about the kind of person he is.
Well, Forest fans would agree, because they're loving life under Marinakis, Scott. And why wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's delivering, really, everything he's kind of, supposedly, I'm sure he would have said when he took over.
Yeah, look, he gave Steve Cooper the ability to go sort of where he wanted, but at the same time, what Steve Cooper did, actually not many managers in English football could have done, from the bottom of the Championship to promotion. So, let's give Steve Cooper massive amounts of credit for that. He's the one who's there on a day-to-day basis. But Marinakis, to be fair to him, gave an extra contract to Cooper when it looked like things weren't going too well, to give him confidence and to show that, no, he's got my faith. Then he sacked him a bit later when it looked like perhaps they would go down. He's brought in Nuno. Look, he's a ruthless, successful, ambitious owner who puts his hand in his pocket, and the Forest fans must absolutely love him for that.
Yeah.
But it's still a big call here. It's a big call. And the fact that he brought in Edu, which then puts Nuno's nose out of joint, and then to bring in Ange, again, it's almost like we're sitting down, getting the popcorn and just watching how this is going to unfold.
Yeah, it could certainly be fireworks at times, perhaps at Forest, like it hasn't already, to be fair. But Lisa, I suppose with the Edu situation, he's coming after Nuno, whereas Ange is now coming in knowing exactly what the setup is like.
Yeah, and I think, as we said, I think the players that came in over the summer, or certainly towards the very end of the window, were seen as, the Edu stroke Marinakis type players. We already said about how the stats show that even under Nuno, they're looking to be more progressive rather than just sitting back and counter-attack. In many respects, yeah, they're almost warming up for an Ange Postecoglou, but we know how it went at Spurs. Listen, he won a trophy, and whatever you say about the quality of the Europa League, you have to dot your cap to Ange, because he did it. He did it in the face of massive adversity where lots of people in the media and outside really didn't want him to do it. But they were shocking in the Premier League. Yeah. They were the worst of the rest. Those three were always going to go down, and then they finished bottom of the rest. And that's not good enough. So there's a balance to be had here. It's a lot stronger squad for Nottingham Forest, but it's still another step up from almost being the complete underdogs, not having Europe to worry about, but now having to deal with the Europa League. And look, they have a chance. I don't see them winning it, but there's no standout team in the Europa League. And the Champions League teams don't drop down anymore.
No,
so there's a wonderful opportunity for some team.
Yeah. Well, let's bring you the Greek football side of this. I'm pleased to say that joining us is expert Stephen Konturug. Stephen, good evening to you. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, no, absolute pleasure. I think, first of all, I want to just get a general census of how big a story Forest are in Greece.
Well, I mean, with Nottingham Forest being owned by Evangelos Marinakis, there's always going to be a big story because there's a lot more kind of view of the club itself since Marinakis took over nearly 10 years ago now. And obviously with him being in charge of the biggest club in Greece, Olympiakos, there's always going to be those things tied together. So there's definitely more eyes on Forest than there were previously, and especially with Ange Postecoglou, who's a Greek manager, Greek-Australian manager, being there now, you best believe there's going to be even more kind of eyes on how things go there between the two, between the owner and the manager.
Yeah. I mean, we're all very intrigued to see how this relationship and dynamic is going to work. Bringing us the Greek angle again, then, obviously, what about Marinakis? How is he seen in Greece?
Well, that depends on who you ask. If you ask Olympiakos supporters, I think the vast majority of them love him. He took over the club 15 years ago when the club still a very successful club back then. The amount of league titles they'd won even before Marinakis came in and bought the club. He cleared the debts. We won 7 league titles in a row under him. Ruthless owner. He's sacked managers, just to name a few, like Leonardo Jardim was at the club. He left. Marco Silva, who's at Fulham now, he was at Olympiacos for literally 10 years ago. Didn't get sacked, but he left as well. Even Vitor Pereira, who was Marco Silva's predecessor, left after 6 months. And only 2-3 years ago, between the years of 2022, 2024, we went through 8 managers, and that's including caretaker coach as well. So until we got to José Luis Mendilibar, who's the current coach, number 8 was the charm by the looks of it with Marinakis. But I guess if you ask the people who does support Olympiacos, they would have a very different opinion of him, and maybe not in the most positive light, for reasons that maybe legally we can't say on here, for the things he was being accused of, that he has been acquitted of as well, just to be clear. So, and on top of that, he's very divisive in terms of things he comes out and says. But it's interesting, the narrative I find that has been kind of played with Marinakis coming into English football, and the reaction of the media with him, because owners in Greece do this all the time. This is quite normal in Greece for owners to kind of take centre stage, to be the big man, show that we're in charge of our football clubs, especially from the big teams. And so even if they come and make a statement, it's not really seen as something that controversial, out of term for an owner or a chairman to do. So from the Greek perspective, for me personally, it's quite amusing seeing the reaction more than what Marinakis actually says or does in English football.
So what about Ange Postecoglou then, Stephen? How is he seen? We know with the Greek heritage he's got. How is he seen in Greece? And is this seen as a very exciting signing, even though it's not, in that country?
I think so. And Ange has always been in and out of kind of the Greek media, even though obviously he spent the majority of his life in Australia. He it's not as well documented as perhaps it could be, but he did spend a brief time managing in Greece for a third-tier team at the time, Panachaiki, who's from the city of Patras. And that was actually his first professional managerial job as well. And he was only there for a few months, and I think reportedly due to, I think it was a change in management who came in and wanted different players, different kind of coach. Even though the players loved him, he left. And he's always been in and out of news in Greece. There's been times where he's been linked with the Greece national team job, particularly at the lowest of lows with the national team in the last 10 years, not qualifying for a major tournament. And he himself has even stated that one day before he retires from coaching, that he would love to take the national team job one day. So anything's possible. And particularly, his rise managing in Japan, then Celtic, then Tottenham. Obviously, Tottenham's an absolutely huge club in the Premier League as well. That really gained a lot of notoriety. And then particularly coming full circle when he won the Europa League. Obviously, he didn't stay at the end of the season, but he was Marinakis. The first kind of public sort of display with him and Marinakis was at the Greek Super League opening ceremony in August, when Ange Postecoglou was given an award for recognition of him being the first Greek manager to win a senior men's European trophy. And so he's definitely been in and out of kind of the Greek football space. Maybe not at the very top level, because he's never managed a team in the first division before. And he's certainly been linked. I mean, he was linked with AEK Athens in the summer when he was unavailable and when they were losing their manager Matthias Almeida to Sevilla. So he's always in and out, Ange, and I think it's definitely gone more over time the higher he's come up into the world of football.
So Stephen, what you know of both men then, do you see this a match made in heaven, or are we expecting fireworks?
You could be getting both. With Marinakis, you could be getting both. Look, Ange said himself that he's taking up a big responsibility from Nuno. That's what he said in his first interview. And he understands not only what it is to manage in the Premier League now, especially having been at Tottenham, and the pressures that comes with, but managing under Marinakis. And so he knows he has to start and hit the ground running. And if that's not the case, then, he could be gone very soon. And hopefully that's not the case for him, because, not just from the Greek perspective, the Australian perspective, and anyone who has followed Ange's entire career, but we want him to do well. And I think he definitely has the tools to do so, even if he doesn't play the same style that Nuno did. There's a lot of groundwork left there by Nuno at Nottingham Forest, and a lot of very good quality players who have come in over the summer and beforehand who have stayed, including, Morgan Gibbs-White, who was a big keep for them over the summer when he nearly went to Spurs. So he definitely has the tools, and he just needs to be given time. Like at Tottenham, he needed time, and at Nottingham Forest, he needs time now as well.
Yeah, just how long that time will be, we will see. Stephen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Natalie.
Stephen.
Appreciate it.
Win games, Nat, and you get time.
Well, this is true.
All about winning games.
This is very, very true. But off the back of sort of what's happened this week at Forest, we're going to be discussing whether managers are now losing their importance and thus losing their authority at football clubs. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. 18 and over, begambleware.org. A very good evening to you. Tuning into Kick-Off with the former FA Cup winner at Chelsea, Scott Minto, and Natalie Sawyer. We are with you until 10 this evening, and then the sports bar's coming your way. Right, we're going to discuss now the wider ramifications of the managerial change at Nottingham Forest. We've seen in this summer window, player power has become rife. Players starting to control their own destiny more than ever, it feels. And fans will, of course, always be the lifeblood, while in recent times, the directors behind the scenes have become perhaps more powerful as well. So are the structures behind football clubs changing? And does that have an impact on managers? And when you consider what happened, Scott, with Nuno, who was very vocal at the start of this season about some of the things he wasn't happy about, Clearly, as you say, a fallout perhaps with Edu, because it was all about the transfers. He wasn't happy that they weren't coming in quick enough. He wasn't having enough time to work with these players that were then coming in. Does it make you sort of feel like that the, well, as I say, the importance of a manager is changing and it's no longer seen as it's their word and nothing else, that actually maybe they're just part of a cog now rather than anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're very important in terms of their particular role, but their role is as an employee of the club. And whether we like it or not, the owner is the most important person. They're the one paying the bills and deciding who goes and who doesn't. You look at Marinakis, for example, who we've been talking about. You know, he's put a lot of money into that club. And he was willing to have a points deduction rather than think we could go down. He's like, do you know what? I don't care. I'm going to spend what I need to spend. He's brought in Edu. I do think the CEOs and the directors of footballs have a little bit too much power. Right. And the head coach now, rather than manager, Nuno's a manager, not a head coach, but there's more head coaches, have less power. I understand why, because you can't have a manager like the old school one saying, I want this type of style and this group of players, and suddenly you sack him and you get another manager with his completely different style. There should be a philosophy throughout the club of the type of football that the owner wants. And I think that's what we're using Marinakis again as an example, wants to do. But I do think that the head coach now, they're becoming more and more disposable than ever. And I think we need to be careful how disposable they are, because players can be very cynical. If they think a manager coming in 6 months' time could easily get the sack because they've got a trigger-happy owner, and it's totally wrong. You know, you're being paid good money and you should be playing for the fans first and foremost, but there's a lot of players out there who might not be in the side and might not be that real good senior pro that they need him to be.
You're alluding to downing tools a little bit.
Possibly, or just creating a bad atmosphere. And if you are going to be successful, everyone needs to be in it together. So I think it's a very delicate balance for an owner to give a manager a certain amount of responsibility while not giving him everything. You know, I remember covering the Spanish football. I did Spanish football for 4 years, and back then, this is 15 years ago. Managers were on 1 or 2 year contracts. They were head coaches, nothing more. They were training the players. They didn't choose who the players were, and that was it, unless you were right at the very top. But you look at it now, and it's the same in English football. And I think just because of the money, that's the way it's gone. I think the owners want not just put their money in and be quiet. They want their own style. They want to bring the CEOs. CEOs of, like a peacock. Well, I want my say here. You do what I say. I'm just below the owner, but I'm above you. So it's a difficult balance to strike. And Marinakis needs to be careful, because if it doesn't work with Ange, then where's he going to go? Is he going to keep on going manager to manager? But I think, again, with that example, I think he's put enough money and shown he's ambitious enough to get the club forward. But yeah, absolutely, they're more disposable than ever.
I mean, it does feel... I think Mikel Arteta might be the only one in the Premier League who's a manager. That's his title. Something that they changed a couple of years ago because he wanted to have more of a say in all the transfers.
Pep's a manager as well.
That's true. That is true.
Maybe not in title, but he is.
Yes. But that's very few and far between nowadays in the Premier League, certainly. Interesting what you're saying about the player side of things as well. It does feel as though a lot of players can sometimes have that thinking of, well, I will outlast the manager, especially when they're signing these long-term contracts.
Contracts now, especially at the top end, because they want to protect the asset, they're on 4 or 5 year contracts. You go to Chelsea, it's 7 and 8 year contracts. So they will outlast the manager. And then you're kind of relying on them being extra professional. Now, they should be. They absolutely should be. You're paying good money. You've got great security, whether you're being picked by the manager or not. And if you're not, find a way to get picked. Although sometimes you do. It's just the manager, takes a disliking to you on a professional basis. But you should still always, because it's for the fans, be working hard and being that good pro in the dressing room. If you're on the bench, wishing everybody all the very best. We talk about England, for example, and the squad that Tuchel picks. It's going to be so important, and why I think a Jordan Henderson should be out there, because he'd be quite happy, or not happy, but okay with not being playing in every game, but he'll be there when things aren't going well, when the press are on top, and even more so in a day-to-day basis as well in a football club. people just see the match days, whether that's once or twice a week. But what goes on in the training ground, and not just on the training ground, but in the dressing room, is so important. And if you've got good pros who will make sure that if there's any bad apple, they put them in their place and they make sure they work hard, then they will get the best out.
Do you think players do that nowadays? Because we always used to hear about, and I'm not advocating certain things, but, you know, putting a player up against the wall with the using by the throat or whatever it is. You know, you take into account some of the player stuff we've seen over this summer. Look, some of them might not have been even around their teammates because of their own decisions, but I just don't know if players are as bothered these days about some of the antics we see.
I don't think it's that they're not bothered, but I just think society's changed, let alone football. And it's almost like the nicey nice approach when, you know, I get it, everybody wants a lovely world and that, but you still have to break a few eggs to make an omelette. And in the dressing room, they don't necessarily need a physical, have them up against the wall, although I think I'm going to tell a little story a little bit later on about my only sending off, but that can come later, that I witnessed. You don't have to do that, but you can still. I played with Dennis Wise. You know, he's 5'4", but you didn't mess with him.
Yeah.
You know, he was, even if he wasn't playing particularly well, if he had a go at you, you listened because you knew actually what he wanted was right for the team and the club. So I think that's so important to get the right pros. Why Jordan Henderson is a great signing for your boys, and why Granit Xhaka is a great signing for Sunderland as well. That off the pitch, I cannot begin to underestimate how important it is you have good senior pros. And when the stuff hits the fan, that they're able to stand up and say, we're still going to go through this, even though this is a tough afternoon we're going to go, you know, we're about to encounter. So important, it really is. But going back to the managers, absolutely. And I think they know that now. It's 1 or 2 year contracts, unless you're incredibly successful. They get sacked. Hopefully they get another job. They almost have to, you look at Russell Martin, for example, I think he probably felt, I have to show that I'm a certain style, the brand that's quite sexy football, rather than winning football in the Premier League. He said he's learned. We'll have to wait and see whether he does, and he's experiencing a very tough start at Rangers. But it's a tough job, Nat, to keep everybody happy, all the players, whether they're playing or whether they're not, this media, the social media, the owners, the CEOs. You know, they are pulled, they really do,
from every direction, it feels, with managers and head coaches these days, certainly. And it does feel as though we've gone beyond the days of the dynasties of managers, Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger. I think there's only a couple that Simon Weaver, who's the Harrogate Town manager, has been in charge since, 2009, I think it is. Him and Pep, I think, are the two longest serving, and then the rest, short and sweet, it feels, for a lot of these other managers. So, yeah, it does feel like it's changing. We didn't even get to AI and that introduction and how that's going to change managers as well, and the fact that, this latest technology could well start picking your own teams.
Look, I understand managers, even if they're going into almost the lion's den and having a difficult owner, what they're expected to do, just sit back and not take a job. They want to take a job.
I agree with you.
But I do think they need to draw a line if the owner starts picking side through AI, or what the CEO does as well. So that's another level.
That's what happens with technology. We shall see. Just to let you know, the talkSPORT Daily podcast has a brand new refresh for you, and you really need to hear about it. talkSPORT's household names, including Jeff Stelling, Alan McCoy, Adrian Durham, and so many more, bring you in-depth chats on a plethora of different topics in just a bite-sized 15-minute episode, out first thing every morning. You can listen then on your commute to work, when you're trying to avoid doing your work perhaps, in the shower, wherever you so wish. That is the talkSPORT Daily podcast, available first thing every morning on the talkSPORT app, as well as on your usual podcast platforms. Just a quick score update for you, because there are Women's Champions League qualifiers taking place, and in the first leg, Manchester United have lost to the Norwegian side Brann in Norway, leaving Mark Skinner's side with a lot of work to do for the second leg, which is on September the 18th, as they look to book their place in the Champions League proper. Up next, we're going to discuss England. Has that 5-0 win over Serbia on Tuesday given Thomas Tuchel a bit of a headache? Why not get involved? 03717 2233 44.
What football ground are you thinking of when someone says this?
Really tough place to go. Difficult place to go. Such a tough place to go.
It's a tough place to go at the moment.
It was a really difficult place to go, always.
But what are the toughest places to go, really? We've scoured the planet to find out. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try playing in a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle at the world's northernmost professional club. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the 97-98 Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on a windswept cliff in the Faroe Islands. In Euro 2000 qualifying, Craig Brown's men were taken to fishing village Toftir. Kevin Gallagher called the pitch a cowfield and the wind like Pitodry on a bad day. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time, leading to these absolute scenes, and still one of Scotland's most embarrassing results.
Daft little ground, silly game.
But away trips don't come any tougher than a lung-busting schlep up the Andes to face Bolivia in La Paz. But now the Bolivians have taken home advantage to another level. The country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Grass doesn't even grow up here. Bolivia have not lost here yet. The longest unbeaten run in any professional league ever belongs to Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda if you must. They've gone 7 years without defeat at the Rajko Mitic in Serbia's Superliga. Their fans are pretty intimidating as well, but they're not as loud as this mob. Galatasaray's Ali Sami Yen Stadium's officially the loudest in world football. In a derby with Fenerbahce, Galatasaray fans set a Guinness World Record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead, and pretty tough to carry out your manager's instructions when you can't even hear them. However, our most intimidating away day is in Wales, where cameras can't enter and players can't leave. HMP Prescoed. This prison team was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
Early June 1939, Germany, always a tough place to go to.
Very good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on talkSPORT. This is Kick-Off, and alongside me it is the former Chelsea defender and 1997 FA Cup winner, Scott Minto.
In the last century, yeah. It was a long time ago now.
You're so old, you are. I'm not far behind, to be fair. In this hour, we're going to discuss England after their decisive 5-0 win over Serbia on Tuesday. Has Thomas Tuchel been given a bit of a selection headache? Can the likes of Palmer, Saka and Bellingham force their way back in? And should they? And what about the players out in the cold like Phil Foden, Trent Alexander-Arnold? Should they be concerned at this point in their careers that they aren't England regulars? Perhaps you could say the same for Jack Grealish. 03717 22 3344. Also, in this hour, we're going to be discussing the enhanced games. Swimmer Ben Proud has signed up for the controversial event which aims to showcase human potential without limits, otherwise known as legal doping. Should this event even be allowed to go ahead? We'll discuss it this hour as Olympic swimming legend Sharon Davis will join us to discuss. And later, we'll chat the return of the Premier League 2. So much for us to get through. I would love to hear from you. You can get in touch via the usual means. 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on. You can WhatsApp us on that number. You can text us too. We're through. It's going to be another busy hour. There's lots for us to get through. I'm going to quickly just come to this message, which is absolutely right from Rob, talking about Simon Weaver, the Harrogate manager, where he says the only reason he's the longest serving is because of his dad, who owns the club, which is absolutely right.
Might be true.
Might be an element of nepotism involved there, but still, he is factually the longest serving. But thank you. Right to point that one out. Right, Scott, lots for us to discuss. Let's get into England, shall we? After they successfully passed their toughest test yet under Thomas Tuchel with flying colours in Belgrade.
It's a campaign full of flawless results, but full of flawed performances. Where an eye-catching win could reset perception and set the tone for the 10 months ahead.
Never put a limit to my expectations.
A masterclass at the moment from England in possession football.
Another away swinger from Declan Rice. More curve on that, and he's headed in off the inside of the post. Harry Kane attacking it.
We made it look easy in the end, but we know how difficult these games can be.
Anderson has played it forward. It's a clever touch around the corner. Madueke, he's inside the penalty area, and it's 2. This is much, much better from England.
I saw the behaviour, I saw the energy, I saw the details.
Are you entertained? I am, definitely. Surely he's going to be bundled over the line for 3, it is eventually, and it's Ezri Konsa that has got the goal.
It's a moment I've jumped off since I was a kid.
Serbia reduced to 10 men. Milenkovic with a sliding challenge. He's brought Kane down. Played in towards Gahey for 4. It just gets better and better.
What we can do to teams is frightening.
Rashford has spotted the ball down. Cluttering run up and rolls it past him into the bottom left-hand corner. And England, with a 5-star performance, have a 5-0 lead in Belgrade.
And now it's on us to keep the thing going.
England magnificent. Serbia 0. England 5.
Yeah, a very impressive England then in Belgrade as they scored 5 different scorers as well for the 3 Lions in that game. And when we head into the next international break in October, they'll have a friendly with Wales, followed by another qualifier away to Latvia. So, Scott, before we kind of really get into the mix of England, just in general, how are you assessing England under Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah, look, I think the stats say, 5 games, 5 wins, haven't conceded. It's not been that good.
That just in qualifying, because let's not forget the Senegal game.
Absolutely, yes. In qualifying, it's not been sort of that positive. But I wasn't that negative about the Andorra game that a lot of people were. I think it was always going to be difficult. These games you just can't win, and you don't win them 6 or 7-0 anymore. You don't. I thought while it wasn't great, there were still positive performances both on an individual, and you could kind of see what Tuchel was trying to do with different movements and that and players. I thought the Serbia one was almost, he needed that just to keep the wolves from the door. It was almost like, right, have some of that. And you look at the stats. 70% possession, 24 shots to 3, 12 on target to 0. Serbia didn't have a shot on target at home. I know, and look, it was a poor Serbia side, but I thought it looks like now Thomas Tuchel has a really positive problem because the likes of Cole Palmer, Jude Bellingham, even Saka, you can't say that Saka can't start, but Noni Madueke, who, by the way, I'm really disappointed he's left Chelsea. I would like to see him stay at Chelsea. I really like him. And I think he's a very versatile winger. It's not just a right winger. He can play on the left as well. I think he's been England's best player for the last 3 or so games. So I think if you look at the players that have come in, Elliot Anderson being another one, with Nottingham Forest being the theme here as well. Ezri Konsa, really pleased for him. Obviously disappointed that John Stones is injured. And we kind of need him fit just for, again, that experience, what I was talking about with the likes of Jordan Henderson and that. Just got to mention Charlton, obviously he came through the ranks there. But really pleased with him that he looks like him and Mark Gahey could be the partnership come the World Cup, just because of John Stones not being fit. Yeah. I think it was such a positive performance in so many ways that hopefully now it's almost like the cobwebs are blown away, the pressure's taken off, because we were heading towards the England that I saw before Gareth Southgate took over, where there was more and more pressure. And the weight of the shirt was a bit too heavy for some players, whereas actually some of those have come in now, and as I say, it's a really positive problem for Thomas Tuchel when the big boys come back, if they come back.
Yeah, and we'll come in talk about that in more detail a little bit later on. But just in general, you said there about the Andorra result, and there was so much negativity, having only beaten them 2-0 on Saturday night. But you said you weren't as sort of negative about it. What did you see that you not necessarily particularly liked, but didn't think it's alarm bells at this point?
Yeah, I saw a team that it's just... I was in the studio beforehand with Ollie Klink, and I was saying, look, anybody who thinks it's going to be 5 or 6, it's not going to happen. It just doesn't work like that anymore. Again, Noni Madueke I thought was very, very good. I had a little bit of a, should we say, discussion with Adrian Durham beforehand, saying I don't think that Harry Kane needed to play in this particular game.
No, he didn't, of course.
Let's just get that number 2, and obviously at the moment that's Ollie Watkins, more and more confidence in an England shirt. Because I think the gap between Kane and any number 2, whoever that may be, is so big that even if he's not playing well, he's going to be playing. And that's what we saw in the Euros. So and if he gets injured, we need someone to come in who feels like he's ready. He's a seasoned international, and I don't think we've got that at the moment. But I saw a team that we need to play bigger teams, and I don't know if UEFA or FIFA can find a way that maybe they change things. I don't know how they're going to do going forward, but it's almost like we're hiding to nothing playing these type of teams. And as I say, winning 5s and 6 doesn't really happen anymore.
But equally then, you're saying these types of teams, these are the sort of teams that will have that low block, that will make it very difficult for England to break through. They have to find a formula to do that, and they're not able to do it yet. Not properly anyway.
Thomas took, and look, people will turn around and say, well, of course 5 and 6, just look at elsewhere in other countries, how they have scored 5 and that. But there's something about England and the weight of the shirt that I think what Gareth Southgate did, and okay, he didn't get us to actually, the promised land, but for him to turn it around and have 2 finals, a semi-final and a quarter-final in his 4 tournaments. And I was critical of him in the last tournament. I think it's right that he's not England manager anymore, but I do think we should appreciate the job that he's done. To continually, when you think about even the era when I was playing, the likes of, Beckham and Lampard and Gerrard and Scholes and the players we had then, and yet the managers couldn't find a way to get that blend. I think Thomas Tuchel was realising this is, as much as we try and train, we don't have enough time to do it. And that's why I think, again, the Serbia performance, as much as the result, was really important. As I say, the fascinating thing now is he needs to find a way. And in the next squads, I actually would like to see almost a different midfield in between the 2 teams and see, I'm not quite sure whether Bellingham's going to be fit, and hopefully Cole Palmer will be. I just think in the real deep end of a World Cup, if you are to win the World Cup, and that's his job, that's his remit, you need world-class players who can step up and have world-class moments. Ruud Gullit used to say to us at Chelsea, I want you to do 2 things to affect a game. And Jude Bellingham can do that. So whatever you say about maybe he's not quite as disciplined as he could be in that sort of number 8 role, I still feel I want Cole Palmer in the side. I feel you have to have Jude Bellingham in the side. Okay. I want Declan Rice in the side. And you're going to turn around and say to me, well, Declan Rice doesn't play as a 6 for Arsenal. But I think someone has to sacrifice something. Otherwise, you're losing a Cole Palmer or Jude Bellingham, and I don't think we can afford to do that if we want to win the World Cup.
Well, in fairness, when he was speaking to Faye Carruthers after that Serbia result, Declan Rice said he would play anywhere. And he did say he would happily play at number 6 as a number 6 if he was asked to do that. So he's not adverse to doing that. Of course he's not. Look, we'll get into this in more detail in just a couple of minutes because there is a lot for Thomas Tuchel to really assess from this latest international break, heading into the next one, about the players that he brought into this latest squad, the players that were missing, the players that were omitted as well. Goodness me, it is a little bit of a selection headache. That's what we'll discuss next. Good evening, this is talkSPORT, this is Kickoff, this is Scott Minto and me, Natalie Sawyer, with you until the Sports Bar at 10. So England are well on their way to World Cup qualification, and in this current camp they were without the likes of Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, Cole Palmer, for example, through injury. And then there was also the omission of Phil Foden and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Jack Grealish too. So how many of these players do we think could walk back into the England team or even the England squad? And just how uncertain is the future for some of these three Lions superstars?
Plenty of signs as the way forward. The blueprint has been laid. England magnificent. Serbia 0, England 5.
Cole Palmer's got to come back in. Jude Bellingham's got to come back in. Bukayo Saka. Do they? Why? I don't think they have to.
He's so good when he's fit, and we're just hoping he stays fit, because this could be the end of Trent Alexander-Arnold's international career. When you think about it, Reece James stays fit. Does Trent get back in?
Phil Foden in full flow, I think, is needed by every single team in the world. I think he genuinely is at his best, capable of elevating every single club and national team in the world. That's how good he can be. But Phil Foden, in the form that he has demonstrated over the past 12 months, is nothing but a hindrance to whatever team he's playing.
It's more Henderson to Saka into a shooting position. Pick that out! That is an absolute beauty from Bukayo Saka.
The players that have come in have done very well. Morgan Rogers, Elliot Anderson. But I do feel when everyone's fit and available, Bellingham is, for me, probably first name on the team sheet. So is Saka.
And I think that's where Thomas is going to be ruthless and show that ruthless side as well. I think everyone can be dropped.
Well, certainly there were a few eyebrows raised with some of those players that weren't called up into this latest Thomas Tuchel squad. And he decided to have a slightly smaller squad this time around as well, suggesting he wanted it to be a bit more competitive than in usual squads that we would find in these international breaks. But a whole host of big-name players, Scott, that weren't called up and also all injured, like Bellingham, Foden, Grealish, Trent. Do you expect all of those players perhaps to come back into the fold in this season, or are you worried about a few of them perhaps not making the grade?
Yeah, I'm concerned on behalf of them. I mean, Jude Bellingham's coming back. Cole Palmer's coming back. Bukayo Saka's coming back.
Yes.
Phil Foden, he's probably the one I'm worried for the most, because we have as Gabby was saying there, Morgan Rogers, he was sensational, wasn't he? And again, we'll talk about moments. He has the ability to hold the ball in difficult situations, the confidence to do that, but also, and that's in our own half. And in the final third, he can unlock the defence, whether it's a shot himself scoring or assist or an assist to an assist. So I look at Phil Foden and I think to myself, where he was 2 seasons ago, one of our best players, and then since the Euros, he's fallen off a cliff. And I do worry for him, because it's not as if he's even been played by Pep. So, and we have a lot of good number 10s, we really do. So, yeah, I worry very much for Foden. I think Trent should have been included. I think he's finding it tough in Madrid. He is one of our most talented players. And I think just when he was perhaps needed a little bit of love, Thomas Tuchel could have given it to him. Look, I like Livramento. I like Jed Spence a lot. I think he's been sensational since he's come back, either at left back or right back for Spurs. But I still think Trent is that one who, again, moments, can deliver a moment in a World Cup semi-final or final. Having said that, I play Reece James ahead of him.
I was just about to ask, though, where does Reece James fit into all
this? Reece James for me. Look, I mean, the way I try and simplify it is Trent going forward is probably 10 out of 10 with his passing. Defensively, 6 out of 10. Whereas Reece James is 9 out of 10 attacking and defending. You know, he's probably the most all-round best defender, certainly fullback, that we have. And I think he is world-class when he's 100% fit. That's the only thing. If he stays fit, he plays. If he doesn't, I think Thomas Tuchel should have more confidence in Trent. And we'll have to wait and see what happens with the next squad that's picked. But look, isn't this what we want? Isn't this, we want competition. We want the manager and someone who has the cojones to actually do the ruthless thing. And I think he is. Not only is he ruthless enough to pick a squad and leave big names out, he's ruthless enough to, and I'm fascinated with the next squad and team that he picks. Elliot Anderson, on current form for England, deserves to be starting in the next one. If Palmer, Saka, Bellingham, none of them are sort of his position. So what do you do? Do you drop Rice back, or do you say, no, we'll have Rice alongside Elliot Anderson because he deserves to wear the shirt again.
I mean, that was you were sort of talking about, the strength really of what's available now for Thomas Tuchel. And you saw in this latest international break that some players have come into this squad and just taken it. And like Elliot Anderson has done. He's not been fazed by it at all. And that does lead to, as you say, these further questions now. Well, what do you do? Do you drop him, which is never great for a player who's done so well, to then bring in, as you say, to switch it around, to have Rice as that number 6, but then that's because you're pushing up Bellingham. I mean, it's incredible and it's brilliant, and it goes to show how blessed England are with all of these options. But my goodness, it does mean it's very difficult for Thomas Tuchel to narrow it down.
But look, that's what he's England manager for.
Of course.
And that has been the issue. Again, I give a lot of credit to Gareth Southgate, how he's turned things around and got us towards quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals, but he didn't get us over the line. Thomas Tuchel is ruthless enough to do that, both in terms of picking an 11, but also changing things during a game. And the problem for England has not been the talent, or the depth of talent.
No.
It's been getting the blend to go on and win a tournament. And that's what we haven't done, and that's what Thomas Tuchel is there for. Now, again, I talk about conditions in the States, Mexico and Canada. I think it's really difficult for an English team to go over and win the World Cup in the States. I really do. But then you look at what Maresca did with Chelsea, similar conditions. He managed that tournament really well, and they even lost a game in there as well. And yet by the final, they were still in absolute peak physical condition. So, we have the players. Now, be ruthless, Thomas.
Well, this is what he said. He said the competition for places is on. If you are in camp, you are in your best behaviour, your best shape, best form, and you make the best of it. It is a privilege to be in camp and then fight for your place. If you can help everyone to be better and to grow, this is what we did. And he said, I am always brave when it comes to his selections. And obviously, as we mentioned, Jude Bellingham was one of those names not involved this time around through injury. Fascinating to hear what England legend Stuart Pearce had to say about perhaps reconsidering whether or not you bring him back into the fold.
Been around the game a long time, and you sort of judge, and sometimes you judge and get it awfully wrong, and I hope I'm awfully wrong on this one. I think this get-together with no Jude in the squad will show the manager, OK, what's the atmosphere amongst the rest of the group? And you have to make big calls within the group. At the moment, we think leaving Jude Bellingham out of the team would be outlandish. But for the greater good, somewhere down the line of the team, if it's the right thing to do, it's always the right thing.
OK, so he's saying there, if it's the right thing for England to leave him out, then it is for the greater good there, Scott. So, a fully fit Jude Bellingham, you leave him out? For the greater good,
right? So that's that. I find it hard to believe, but then you hear what Thomas Tuchel said, and he's since apologised for using the word sort of repulsive behaviour. Yes. Jude Bellingham is probably our best player, most talented player. He has gone over to Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world, with the most pressure, and absolutely bossed it. He's loved over there at such a young age. I've got nothing but admiration for the guy. To go to Germany at a young age and then to go to Madrid and just look as if he's ready-made. But it was really interesting, and whether he apologised for the use of the word or not, Thomas Tuchel's English language is very, very good. And maybe he didn't realise the reaction to that. I look at Jude, and people say, he has an attitude. Yeah, it's a winning attitude. That's what he has, and we need more of that. Now, but do the other players mix in that well? Again, people turn around and say, but you want to win the World Cup, you need these men, you need these characters. But we do live in a different world from maybe 20 years ago, and you do have to manage each particular player. It's down to the manager to get the best out of each individual and then the team as a whole. I would be flabbergasted if Jude Bellingham's not involved in that, not part of that, even if he needs to be told a bit, look, hold off a little bit. I liken him to almost Brian Robson, and I think Brian Robson's one of the greatest midfielders this country's ever produced. He can do absolutely everything. He can tackle, he can get forward, he can score goals, he can assist, he can go out wide if he needs to. But I think he needs to be a little bit more disciplined. But if you're talking about a 4-1-4-1 formation, again, how do you get the best out of the players you've got? You try to tweak the system. And by having him and Cole Palmer as the two 10s, And then you've got the Declan Rice who might have to sacrifice his 8 role and but be that 6. Then I find I just want to see it. I want to see how that could possibly do and be given a little bit of time. We're so quick to judge with England games after one game. That's not going to work. But yet in club football, you realise you need 5 or 6 games to get this and they're training with each other every single day. How do we win the FA Cup now? We get the best players to fit around a system, and then we make sure that the culture around that is as positive as it can be. And that's where Gareth was really good, but couldn't quite do the first bit. And Thomas Tuchel, again, I'm fascinated to see what he'll do for the next squad and how in October and November it will develop. Because once we get to the end of November, and that's, we've had those qualifications and we will qualify, then we've almost got to know what his best 11 is by then. A few little tweaks and there might be injuries, but he needs to work on that 11 as much as possible. And Jude Bellingham's got to be in it. He's got to be.
Okay. Well, I guess Stuart was going off the back of what those comments that Thomas Tuchel had said, what also had been in the papers over the weekend as well, where Ollie Holt had written a piece about some issues behind the scenes at the FA and within England too. But yeah, Jude Bellingham is a pretty special player and it'd be balmy. Everyone else would look upon us and go, what are you doing? Not including him, that is for sure. Right, we're going to change gears when we return. We're going to discuss the upcoming World Athletic Championships as well as the controversial enhanced games with our athletics reporter John Cushing. So that's next. You're listening to Kick Off on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes, 18 and over, begambleaware.org. Good evening. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT with the former Chelsea, Benfica and Charlton defender Scott Minto, who's alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. And some of the headlines to bring you: England's cricketers suffered a 14-run defeat to South Africa in a rain-affected T20 clash in Cardiff. The Tourists scored 97 for 5 from 7.5 overs. The 2027 Champions League final will be held in Madrid at the home of La Liga side Atletico. The Metropolitano Stadium has a capacity of nearly 70,000, and the final of the women's competition will take place at Warsaw's National Stadium in Poland. And swimmer Ben Proud has become the first Brit to join the controversial 2026 Enhanced Games. The 30-year-old won a silver in the 50-metre freestyle at the Paris Olympics last year. And the former Olympic swimmer Mark Foster says the Enhanced Games, which allows athletes to dope, is pitching itself as a serious competitor to the Olympics.
Yeah, it's not the best message, but I think the thing is this is the start of, is this the start of something new? As in, will this be the new norm going forward? I like to think of sport as a very a level playing field and a clean space. But historically, with when we look at Tour de France cycling, when you look at some of the athletics over the years, American football, baseball. I mean, it has been and it always will be. I think in every sport, in a small way. All right, what the Enhanced is trying to do is look at long term, is have a competitor to the Olympics. Because the Olympic Games has a huge monopoly and a huge amount of money goes into the Olympic Games. And a bit like with golf with the PGA, all of a sudden the Live Tour stepped up, right? There's a competitor to it. Is the Enhanced Games going to be a competitor to the Olympic Games where athletes and sports people actually get the potential to earn some decent money as opposed to just sort of like doing it as a hobby and a little bit of thing you do on the side? It gives them an absolute opportunity to be, I'm not saying to be a Premiership footballer, by the way, but an opportunity to earn a living.
So that was Mark Foster on Breakfast. And we should obviously outline that when we're talking about doping, it is with regards to drugs that would be deemed legal, so therefore not recreational drugs. And we'll have more on the Enhanced Games a little bit later on. But to look ahead to then the Tokyo World Athletic Championships, which gets underway this weekend, who better to speak to than our very own athletics reporter, John Cushing. John, good evening. How are you?
Evening, Natalie. Very well, thank you.
Oh, I like your backdrop. That's very snazzy.
It is the Tokyo Olympic Stadium, and of course, it's empty at the moment because the championships start tomorrow. But remember, 4 years ago, it was the Olympic Games in Tokyo, and it was empty then as well, sadly, because it was the COVID Games. So it's a real opportunity for the city of Tokyo and Japan to welcome the world's best athletes back and do it with a full house. And I think there were 700,000 tickets up for sale for these World Championships over the next week. So this stadium will look slightly different over the course of the next week.
Yeah, it certainly will. And of course, we should point out it is the best of the best taking on each other in every sort of track and field element.
Absolutely. More than 2,000 athletes, 200 countries. I think Noah Lyles famously said about the NBA basketball, why do they call themselves the world champions? I compete against everybody in the world. In America, the NBA just compete against themselves. That is what World Athletics brings. It is the biggest sporting event apart from the Football World Cup and the Olympics, the World Athletics Championships. That's how big it is. And as I say, there are the world's best athletes in action. And hopefully, as you've been discussing, we'll have some clean athletes competing and winning gold medals as well.
Yeah, certainly so. And you mentioned Noah Lyles. He's targeting, a third consecutive 100-metre gold, World Athletic gold?
Yeah, and he won 3 golds in Budapest 2 years ago. It's weird to think that the last World Athletics Championships was 2 years ago. We had Paris, obviously, the Olympics last year, and then we had 2 World Championships back-to-back in 2022 in Eugene in the US, and then in Budapest in 2023. And Noah Lyles is on a run of winning the 100 metres every time. Will he do it this time? Well, look, he is certainly not the fastest this year. He's coming back from injury, but as you say, the defending and Olympic champion. But a couple of names that I thought a certain person has been talking in Japan today. I thought we should really understand what he was saying and respect his views. That would be Usain Bolt, who is obviously the greatest Olympian and probably greatest athlete of all time. He has said that it could be a Jamaican 1-2 in the men's 100 metres. Shane Thompson and Oblique Seville. Thompson has run the fastest 100 metres in the world for 10 years. No one's gone quicker than him in the last 10 years, 9.75 this season. And Seville beat Lyles at the London Diamond League. I watched him in that, and Lyles was second in that, and he was second again to Seville in Lausanne. So I'd say it was one of those three. Look out for Great Britain's Zarnell Hughes, who actually won a bronze a couple of years ago in Budapest as well.
John, talk to us about Keely Hodgkinson as well, the Olympic champion. But it's been such a tough year, hasn't it? And yet she's always looked at the positive side of things, saying, like, you know what, I've learned so much from this and I wouldn't change it all.
Yeah, Keely Hodgkinson has the potential, Seb Coe said it yesterday, to be the greatest 800-metre runner in British history, which for Seb Coe to say is quite a statement, I would suggest. And Keely Hodgkinson has shown how strong she is, because you're right, Scott, she's come back from injury. A lot of people were beginning to raise slight eyebrows, saying, well, is she going to come back? Is she going to come for these World Championships? And she came back to 2 Diamond League meetings just before these championships in Tokyo, and she won both races, and in impressive style as well. She has the potential, I think, to be one of the greatest Olympians in British history, whether that's just 800 metres or across Olympic history. She is as well known, I think, to the general public in this country now as Jess Ennis-Hill was as we approached London 2012 and the victory that she had in Super Saturday. But you're right, Keely's just on fire. What I love about her is that she's always got a smile on her face, and she's always looking to bring the next generation through. And interestingly, she's up against her roommate and teammate Georgia Hunter-Bell in this race in the 800 metres. Won't be until next Thursday. It's a week today that we'll see the start of the 800 metres. But Hunter-Bell, who won a bronze, as you'll remember, in the 1500 metres in Paris last year in the Olympics, she's decided that after talking to her coach and having a great season in the 800 metres, that's the one she's more likely to get a medal in, and she's hoping for a British 1-2, which we haven't seen since the likes of Coe and Cram in the 1980s. That would be a story. Keely and Georgia both on the podium.
And what about some other sort of Brits that could medal, do you think, John? I mean, Josh Kerr, Katarina Johnson-Thompson, both silver medalists in Paris. Can they go one better?
So Josh Kerr's the defending champion. So he is the gold medalist from Budapest. And in fact, the other British world champion from 2022, Jake Whiteman, is also back in this 1500 metres race. That starts, I think the heats start on Sunday morning our time. So worth keeping an eye on that. But of course, you've got Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the big challenge, as you said, in Paris last year. Also Hocker, the American, who came through and stole the gold medal on the line. So Josh Kerr told me this is the race of the championships. He would say that because he's involved in it. But he said really clearly, I do not want to give up my title. He described it as Britain's title, having won it for the last 2 years, or 2 championships with Kerr and Whiteman. But you're right, Katarina Johnson-Thompson, but she's up against Nafi Thiam, who's the Olympic champion. But Katarina Johnson-Thompson is the defending world champion as well, but world leader in the heptathlon. Anna Hall is in Tokyo, so she's on good form. You've got Matt Hudson-Smith in the men's 400 metres. No individual British man has ever won the men's 400 metres at the World Championships, but there is no Quincy Jones, who beat Hudson-Smith on the line, a bit like Hocker did with Kerr to deny him that gold medal in the 400 metres. So no Quincy Jones. So Hudson-Smith has a chance, but again, he's not the quickest going so far this year. And talking of the 400 metres, worth keeping an eye on this. Amber Anning is the world indoor champion. She won that earlier this year. She got the 2 bronze medals in Paris in the 4x100 and the 4x400 relay women's and the mixed relay, and she finished 5th in the individual. It was an unbelievable schedule in Paris she ran. She won't be going in the mixed relay, I wouldn't have thought, in the opening day of the World Championships this time, but she will be up against 400 metre hurdler Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. You remember she destroyed the field in Paris a year ago. She is opting for the 400 metre flat in Tokyo. So it'll be interesting to see how she gets on, and can Anning turn world indoor gold medal into an outdoor medal of some colour.
Okay, and we might see Armand Duplantis just record another world record, as he tends to do, it seems. What is it? 13th time he's broken his pole vault record, something like that. And if he does it in Tokyo, he'll come away with a handy bonus as well.
Yeah, no, there is money. There is money to win at these World Championships. This is what Seb Coe has been saying so long. He wants to give these clean athletes the chance to win big money, and the World Championships is part of that. And as you say, I know it was your favourite night in the Olympic Stadium, Natalie, but Duplantis will be going for another world record. I can't see anybody else challenging him for the gold medal. But yeah, he's just a great story, and he's actually there with Usain Bolt this week as well, promoting the Ultimate Championships, which will take place in a year's time in Budapest. This is a brand new tournament. I know you guys are talking about the Enhanced Games as a challenger for the Olympics, but this is World Athletics coming up with a season-ending championships. It's called the Ultimate Championships. It'll be this time next year. It'll finish the season like the Olympics does and like the World Championships does in the 1 year that they don't have it. And Duplantis and Bolt have been promoting that in Tokyo, and that's what we want to see. It's interesting, actually. I spoke to Adam Jamili this week, of course, was part of the talkSPORT crew a year ago for the Olympics, and he was saying that he preferred having a season-ending championship like we are this year, rather than mid-season and then you go back and compete. And here's a little story for you. Dina Asher-Smith, who's back running in London, back training in London. She's in the women's 100 metres. She was a 200-metre champion at the Worlds in 2019, 6 years ago, and that was the last event of 2019. It was late September, October. So that shows that you can peak, and all these athletes, the times actually don't matter. It is about peaking for this championship, because as soon as this is over, they're on the holidays and they'll start concentrating on next year. So it's going to be, it is a must watch over the next week, because these are going to be absolutely flying, or they should be. That's what they should have been working on all year.
Indeed. A must watch, although a funny time of day for us over here to watch it, certainly, John. But listen, it's been great as always. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Pleasure. Nice to see you.
That is our athletics reporter. Oh, I can say that again. Athletics reporter John Cushing, then, focusing on the Worlds in Tokyo, which is a clean event, as we know. On the way next, we'll talk about the Enhanced Games, which is all about doping in a legal way, as former Olympic swimmer Sharon Davies will be with us. Very good evening to you. This is Kickoff here on talkSPORT with Scott Minto and Natalie Sawyer. Just to bring you some breaking news that we didn't bring you. I was meant to do it and I forgot. Trabzonspor has been confirmed to have signed goalkeeper Andre Onana from Manchester United on loan. That has now been confirmed. So that's the breaking news for this evening. But we're going to continue on the theme of athletics and wider as well, because there's other sports that are involved in this, concerning the Enhanced Games, a multi-sport event allowing athletes to use performance-enhancing substances without drug testing. Organisers claim it will be the Olympics of the future, aiming to push the boundaries and break world records through drug use. It's been founded by the Australian Aaron D'Souza, who believes athletes should have the right to do what they want with their own bodies. And it's a concept, as you may well imagine, that has faced heavy criticism for health risks to athletes and also undermining fair play in sport. Now, the British swimmer and 2024 Olympic silver medalist Ben Proud has announced this week he will compete in the 2026 Enhanced Games. And he joined White and Jordan earlier today to discuss his decision to partake then in this new competition. He said the financial incentives will be appealing to a lot of athletes.
It's very outdated. I've been at the top of the game for the last 11, 12 years, and I've seen no change in financial rewards or payments towards us athletes. You know, I think we dedicate a huge amount of our lives to perform in the Olympics, which is once every 4 years. And once you get there and you medal, there is no financial incentive. And I didn't realize that until, you know, last summer in Paris, but it's pretty heartbreaking to commit your life to this and to not be rewarded in a way that seems fair. You know, I'm not a victim of lack of funding or lack of support, but in terms of securing my future, this is definitely a new avenue. So I think hopefully having a new competition around will cast reflection on the current situation, not just swimming, but for all Olympic sports, and hopefully add some change, you know, some benefits to the ones who are coming through. And, you know, I'd like to see a positive change in swimming.
OK, so that's British swimmer Ben Proud, who joined talkSPORT earlier. And by the way, the Enhanced Games are offering appearance fees. There's also a $1 million bonus on offer for breaking the world record for the 50-metre freestyle, for example. So these are some of the incentives that are being put forward by Aaron D'Souza and his team. Joining us to speak about this in more detail is former Olympic swimmer Sharon Davis. Sharon, good evening to you. How are you?
Good evening. I'm well, thank you. I'm well.
Thank you for being with us. What's your reaction then to Ben's decision to join the Enhanced Games?
I mean, my first feeling is just disappointment. You know, Ben won a silver medal in Paris. He won a silver medal at the World Championships just gone, which were in Singapore. He's been competing, as he said, for the last 10 years, right at the top. And we're going to miss him putting on a GB tracksuit. I mean, you know, you have to understand that, you know, I spent my career racing East Germans pumped full of drugs. So I'm never going to be pro a drug sport. You know, not only is it not a level playing field, it becomes a competition about the pharmacists, the chemists, and the athletes that are prepared to take the biggest risks with their health. And that is not a very good message to give to young people who want to be involved in sport. So it's not something I'm ever going to support. I do understand his position, particularly with regards to finance in the sport. You know, I was really disappointed this year that the BBC couldn't even be bothered to put swimming on television in any shape or form. So we're now going through the whole year where there'll be nothing. You know, one of the biggest participation sports that we have in this country, a sport that most people know how to do, gets great viewing figures when the Olympics are on, and they decided not to show it at all. And, you know, I know it was a long time ago, but when I was competing, swimming was on television 4 or 5 times a year, and people could name swimmers, you know, just chatting to them in the street. You'd really struggle now for people to tell you 3 or 4 swimmers, you know, even though we've got very successful swimmers, people like Ben winning medals at major championships all the time. And the athletes were given an incentive in Paris. Sebco put $50,000 in the pot for each gold medalist. And maybe that's what we need to do. You know, maybe we need to give an incentive. You know, why shouldn't we? You know, professional footballers are paid millions. Maybe we should be making sure that our Olympians get something as well. But the IOC will do everything in their power to fight that, because they really don't want to pay the athletes.
Yeah, like you say, World Athletics paying $50,000 for every gold winner is massive at the Olympics, certainly. And if there's no other real financial incentive for others, no wonder some are being tempted by this move away. Do you worry then long term? And I know you say the IOC must have to work on this, but do you worry long term about the Olympics and how we might, no pun intended, see a watered down version of it?
I don't think so. And I think if we're really honest about this, if you break a world record, but you're cheating by taking drugs and you're wearing suits that have been banned, you're not really breaking the world record, because you're not beating people that are the best when it's a level playing field. So as I said, it becomes a competition of pharmacists. And, that's never a position that we should be supporting. And to be fair, they've been trying to get these enhanced games now off for about 2 or 3 years, and no one really has been paying much attention to them. And not many people have actually left. Ben is by far the highest profile person. He's made this decision from a personal financial position, feeling that he's towards the end of his career. But I do think it is a shame. And I think that, he will lose his standing. He will lose his position with, young people looking up to him in the world of British swimming. And I'm disappointed that he's not going to be on the side of the pool, as I said, wearing a Union Jack and still winning more medals. Mark Foster didn't retire until he was 38. In something like a 50, you can get away with actually training probably only a couple of hours a day, a very intense training, and being a supreme natural sprinting athlete, which is what Ben is. So it's a lovely life to have, and he spent a lot of his life training in Turkey and having, the most wonderful time. So I can see his point of view, but I'm not going to be on the side of drug-enhanced sport ever.
A UK Sport, obviously, who are part of the funding for swimmers, are obviously looking into this and are wholly disagreeing in the decision of Ben to join the enhanced game. Do you think in any way they could turn around and be sort of suggesting, well, we want some of this money back that we've given you over the years because you're not even using it now to fund British swimming in the right way?
Yeah, I mean, his funding's been stopped. So, he will now not be getting any funding from National Lottery. National Lottery has done, immense things for British sport. I mean, I obviously had absolutely no funding of that nature at all when I was competing. It all came out of mum and dad's pocket. And then in '96, we won practically, no medals at the Atlanta Games. And then it was decided that we were going to come up with the National Lottery, and the great, wonderful British people, bought their tickets and funded our athletes. And the huge improvement on our medal tallies was extraordinary. I mean, in London, we're second on the medal table. We are per capita one of the most successful sporting nations in the country, in the world. So that process works really, really well. But it is a point, isn't it? When you look at what rugby players have played, and footballers particularly, and cricketers, lots of professional athletes out there that are paid very well to do their sport, that can make a career out of this and can set themselves up for life. And really, as an Olympian, you're not going to do that. You might get away with it if you're in one of the big glamour sprint events on the track, because then you're going to get an awful lot of sponsorship deals. But Usain Bolt has obviously been able to retire very healthily, but that's reasonably rare. Yeah, it certainly is. And look, at the end of the day as well, as much as this has got to be drugs that are approved by the FDA, the US sort of side of things when it comes to what's approved and what's not, there'll also be shoe technology which will be permitted, all sorts of things like that. No recreational drugs. But I suppose at the end of the day, very quickly, Sharon, it could be reckless. This could be, athletes literally killing themselves. So you say it's FDA approved, but what they mean by that is that it's drugs approved to give to people in America that are sick. Right. All right. So yes, they can give steroids to people that are sick, in America, because there is a reason for giving it to them. If you're a perfectly healthy person, taking testosterone and steroids is not good for you, and it will not be good for you long term. And you can be damn sure if someone's saying, here is $1 million, and the person who probably takes the most amount of drugs is probably more likely to win the medal, then people will be tempted to take it. So, I just think it's a very, very bad message to be giving young people. I still think we should be striving in every walk of life to be as honest and as true and as fair as we possibly can.
Well, Sharon, we do appreciate you joining us this evening. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sharon Davies there. The conversation, by the way, will continue because, fascinatingly, the president of the Enhanced Games, the guy that came up with the idea, really, Dr. Aaron D'Souza, will be joining Faye Carruthers and Henry Winter on the Sunday edition on Sunday morning. So I'm sure that'll be well worth tuning into. Up next, we're going to look ahead to a huge fight this weekend between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford before building up to the return of the Premier League.
We've scoured the planet to find out. Forget a cold, wet Tuesday night in Stoke. Try playing in a blizzard 220 miles inside the Arctic Circle at the world's northernmost professional club. When Chelsea lost at Tromsø in Norway in the 97-98 Cup Winners' Cup, a massive snowstorm hit at half-time. These two boys and their brooms were absolutely no match for it. We're staying in Scandinavia for Scotland's toughest away day on a windswept cliff in the Faroe Islands. In Euro 2000 qualifying, Craig Brown's men were taken to fishing village Toftir. Kevin Gallagher called the pitch a cowfield and the wind like Pittodrie on a bad day. The Faroe Islands part-timers equalised in stoppage time, leading to these absolute scenes, and still one of Scotland's most embarrassing results.
Daft little ground, silly game.
But away trips don't come any tougher than a lung-busting schlep up the Andes to face Bolivia in La Paz. But now the Bolivians have taken home advantage to another level. The country's highest city, El Alto, 4,100 metres above sea level. Grass doesn't even grow up here. Bolivia have not lost here yet. The longest unbeaten run in any professional league ever belongs to Red Star Belgrade, or Crvena Zvezda if you must. They've gone 7 years without defeat at the Rajko Mitic in Serbia's Superliga. Their fans are pretty intimidating as well, but they're not as loud as this mob. Galatasaray's Ali Sami Yen Stadium's officially the loudest in world football. In a derby with Fenerbahce, Galatasaray fans set a Guinness World Record of 131 decibels. That's louder than Motorhead, and pretty tough to carry out your manager's instructions when you can't even hear them. However, our most intimidating away day is in Wales, where cameras can't enter and players can't leave. HMP Prescoed. This prison team was briefly kicked out the Gwent League over concerns about young opposition having to go in there. Now that's a tough place to go.
Early June 1939, Germany, always a tough place to go to.
This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. We're into the final hour. If you have only just joined us, where have you been? We're going to be discussing the return of the Premier League. It's a weekend full of derbies, so we'll look ahead to what we can expect. We'll also discuss the possible expansion of the playoffs and get Scott's thoughts as to whether he's in favour of that. And we'll discuss Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, or talkSPORT's Gareth A. Davies, as Crawford looks to make history and become a 3-weight undisputed world champion. If you want to get in touch, then please do. 03717 223344. That's the number to call us on. That's the number to WhatsApp us on. And you can text us to 81089. This is Kickoff. Now, before all of that, it's time for a new feature here on talkSPORT.
Really?
Oh,
We're going to do it?
Well, you're not on that often. No, I'm joking.
That's true.
I'm joking. As we welcome our guest speaker for this evening to the stage, as we indulge in a little bit of after dinner Minto.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are now locked in to After Dinner Minto.
Oh, that's lovely.
Oh,
nice
my
little
goodness.
jingle.
What have you set me up for? Yeah.
No, listen.
This is producer Sam's idea.
Producer Sam's idea, where we thought, look, we know you love a little dinner, love a night out. I'm sure you're on the circuit.
Love a night out, yeah.
I know, I've seen you. Always giving out an award, I'm sure, doing a bit of speaking engagements here, there and everywhere is our Scott. So we thought you must have a fun story to tell us this evening.
No, look, it's not necessarily an after-dinner speaking story, but it was the one that comes to mind straight away. Is the only sending off of my career. I was at Benfica at the time. Graham Souness came in halfway through the first season, and he was absolutely brilliant. And we were winning games, and we were trying to catch Porto, and they kept on getting last-minute winners. And we won't go there, but we were playing away from home. Still raw. Penalties. Anyway,
All right,
we were at, I can't even remember who we were playing, but it was a game that we needed to win, and 0-0, and I I went past this guy a couple of times, foul, no yellow card, foul, no yellow card, foul, no yellow card. And it got to about the 88th minute and foul, no yellow card. So I just lost it. And I booted him up the backside. Didn't even look to see that it's going to be a red card.
Okay.
And the red card came out. So I'm sitting in the dressing room and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Graham Souness is the manager here and he's going to come at me big time. 2 minutes later, Karol Boborski, remember him?
Yes.
Who was at Benfica at the time. He got sent off as well. So we're down to 9 men, which is now, Suey's going to get even angrier, you know. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And then you're sitting there and you hear the trudging of the boots coming in and I'm thinking, right, it's going to come out. And then I suddenly thought, hold on a second, this is Graham Souness. He's committed assault pretty much on the pitch before. Sorry, Gaffer. And I said, if I just apologise to him, just, you know, roll over, show him my tummy and say, I'm really, really sorry, then, you know, surely he hasn't got a leg to stand on. So he comes at me and says, Scott, what on earth were you doing, in different words?
Yeah.
And I said, Gaffer, I'm really sorry. I apologise to you. I apologise to the team. If you want to fine me, that's up to you. You know, the referee never gave us anything. And I apologise. I won't appeal, I promise you, if you fine me. So he's kind of gone, oh, okay. Yeah. So I've done it. And then he's gone at Karol. Karol, what on earth were you doing, young man? In so many words. Carol's had to go back at him. Graham Souness, you remember you mentioned earlier about players having other players up against the wall.
Yes.
So Graham Souness has Karol Boborski 6 feet up above the wall. We're peeling Graham Souness off Karol Boborski, and I'm like, Karol, what are you doing? He hasn't really got a leg to stand on if you just apologise.
Yeah.
And in the end, I got away with.
You didn't even get a fine?
I didn't even get a fine.
What about Karol? Do you know what happened with him?
I don't know, but I think he's still got the bruises.
Yeah.
20 years later.
Worse. Yeah. And did you lose that game?
We drew 0-0,
Okay.
but we didn't win the title. We came second.
Yeah. Well, it's all those penalties, you see.
But it was a pleasure to play under, and I still call him the Gaffer even now. Legend, Graham Souness.
I'm sure there's a lot of managers that you would refer to still as Gaffer, you know?
No, he's the only one. I was with Alan Curbishley today.
Why is that,
so I called Curbs.
But why?
Glenn Hoddle, Glenn.
But why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Curbs was a player when I was playing as well, so we just carried on calling him Curbs.
Yeah.
Glenn Hoddle was quite happy with Glenn, but the Graham Souness was Gaffer. Just felt had to call him Gaffer.
And you still do. Yeah. I like that.
Harry Redknapp.
Very respectful. Yeah. There we go. Well, that was a little bit of a refreshing after dinner Minto this evening.
That's the first and last time.
No, it won't be. I'll tell you what, that's coming back. Just for the jingle alone. And the stories too. Right, this Saturday, Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford will battle it out to become the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. Crawford is making the step up to try and become the first ever 3-weight undisputed world champion. Our team out in Vegas will keep you updated from what is a busy fight week with daily updates, interviews and exclusive content, as you can imagine. And helping us to look ahead to this fight, we can speak to talkSPORT's boxing presenter Gareth A. Davies. Gareth, evening to you.
Gareth.
Good evening, Scott. Good evening, Natalie, from Radio Row here at the Fontainebleau on the Strip.
Oh,
Gareth, I've just got to interject here. Natalie said to me, do you like your boxing? And I said, well, I was in Vegas to watch the Mayweather-Hatton fight. And she went, don't mention that. It'll show your age.
It's a long time ago.
16 years ago, isn't it? 16, 17 years ago.
Amazing. 90% of the audience were British.
Yes, that's right.
Brilliant.
An invasion of sorts,
Anyway.
wasn't it? Right, tell us about the anticipation then for this fight between Alvarez and Crawford, Gareth.
Well, Saul Canelo Alvarez fighting here on very much a celebratory weekend for the Mexicans. You mentioned Ricky Hatton, Scott, being out here and fighting Floyd Mayweather all those years ago. 25,000 Brits. They reckon there'll be over 50,000 Mexicans in the Allegiant Stadium, making up the 70,000 in there against Terence Bud Crawford, who's got it all to do, in my view, against Canelo, who is very much the favourite in this fight, in what is probably the biggest fight in Las Vegas in terms of technically and skill sets since Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather fought here in 2007, when it broke all pay-per-view records. And this one will probably break some records because it's on Netflix and it's being promoted by the UFC and, of course, the ubiquitous Turki Al-Sheikh.
Gareth, I think it's 750 odd rounds between them, and in terms of their professional boxing career, and yet neither of them have touched the canvas. I mean, what are we expecting here? Could that happen here, or is the safe bet a points decision?
Well, Crawford did touch the canvas once against Kavaliauskas, but it was ruled a slip. And Crawford said he did knock me down afterwards, even though Crawford stopped him. So technically, you are right. But Canelo's got one of the best chins in modern boxing. That's a big factor in this fight. He's a bigger man. There's a lot of noise here because there's a lot of interviews going on around me. He's technically the bigger boxer. Canelo's got it all to lose. Crawford's got to do all the work, in my view, and slightly change his style. Crawford has never lost, so he comes in brimming with confidence, but up 2 weight divisions. For me, Canelo wins this all day long, and it's up to Crawford to produce a different kind of performance, to throw more volume, to put Canelo under pressure to win this on points. I think we get a 12-round fistic chess match with 2 of the very, very best of this era.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because Canelo, obviously the legend that he is, but Crawford too. I've been listening to talkSPORT all day, and actually it slightly surprised me because the little I know, I'm going with you, with Canelo on a points decision. But a lot of people have been saying they fancy Crawford. And styles make fights, and I hear you saying that a lot as well. With Crawford being the technician, Canelo being the bull, could we see an absolute classic here?
Oh, I think so. I think the first rounds are going to be, the early rounds are going to be very interesting on how they both do this tactically. They are both elite fighters. They will both be looking for little indentations into each other. As you say, rightly say, Canelo slightly slower than he was in the past, slightly heavier of feet, loading up with a lot of his shots, but I think he's really, really up for this. He cannot afford to be embarrassed early by the greater technical skills of Crawford. But he's, as I say, I think Crawford will have his work cut out in the middle to late rounds as Canelo gets ahead of steam. If Crawford can raise his level, he may well outbox him, but with that massive audience here for Canelo live in the arena, Canelo, very special relationship with Vegas, weird judging at times here in Vegas. Even if it's very close or Crawford's won it, wouldn't surprise me if the judges score it a draw and they go to a second fight. There's so many possible outcomes. They are both the elite of the elite. We are set for a very special fight and the press conference here in a couple of hours' time.
Oh, well, we look forward to that. Just quickly on Netflix then, they're now flexing their muscles, aren't they, when it comes to the big fights?
They are indeed the most people watched. Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, 65 million people last November watched that live. 110 million, if I'm allowed to say this. Jake Paul against Mike Tyson, of course. Netflix are indeed flexing their muscles. They've only got 300 million subscribers, and I bet it's 320 to 330 million after Saturday night. This will break some records, to be sure.
Well, Gav, enjoy it. Thank you. That is Gareth A. Davies then out in Vegas. A very busy Vegas where he is. Keep right across Canelo Alvarez then versus Terence Crawford this week on talkSPORT and the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. Coming up next, we're going to discuss the EFL playoffs, perhaps having a little bit of a revolution. You're listening to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org. You're listening to Kick Off with the former Chelsea defender Scott Minto and me, Natalie Sawyer. Here are some of your headlines. The former Liverpool defender Jamie Carragher is to be honoured with the One Club Award. The accolade is awarded to a player who represented only one club side. Carragher made 737 appearances for Liverpool between 1996 and 2013, and he will go to Bilbao later this month to collect the prize, which is presented by Athletic Club. Anthony Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn says the British boxer is ready for a comeback fight. The former heavyweight champion hasn't stepped into the ring since last year's defeat to Daniel Dubois, but reignited his feud with Tyson Fury in a recent social media post. And how about this? The English Football League is in talks over adding an eliminator round to the Championship playoffs and increasing the number of participants from 4 to 6. Now, the proposal is a similar format to the one used by the National League, meaning the team that finishes 5th would play the 8th place team and 6th would meet 7th in one-off ties at the higher-ranked team's home stadium. Oh, it's quite complicated, but not so if you're in the National League, etc. There's more to it than that, but on Drive, Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent had differing views about it.
Got a whole season to get there.
I get it.
If you finish 3rd and you lose in the final playoff match at Wembley to the team that finished 8th by a goal to nil, the last minute, and it's a ricochet, and it comes off your goalkeeper's head as he's diving, and it's a team that in the season when you play them twice, you beat them 4-0 and 6-1.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
No,
that's not fair.
No, it's fair. Because
you've had a whole season.
No, it's fair. And the reason why I say it's fair, because as you said there, you play 46 games in a season. So if you're having to rely on that last playoff game and a deflection is hit to go up to the playoffs, it's your own fault. Like Sheffield United, I had so much sympathy for them last year because they didn't go up, lost in the final to Sunderland. Sunderland had, I think they were 14 points ahead of Sunderland. Sunderland beat them in the final. But my point is, the two teams above Sheffield United both had 100 points, which is incredible. Sheffield United had 90. So where I have a little bit of sympathy with them is that they got so many points and didn't go up, but then finished top two.
Okay, so differing views there. What we should say is that after the original eliminators that we've already referred to, the winners of those would then proceed to 2-leg ties against the teams that finished 3rd and 4th. And of course, the winners then would meet at Wembley for the right to earn a place in the Premier League. So, Scott, what do you reckon?
We're almost so long explaining that. We're going to the break.
I'm so sorry. It took a while.
But you have to. And do you know what, Nat? When I first heard this, I thought to myself, why are we changing something that works and was one of the best inventions
exactly, yeah,
in English football? And yet, when you think it again, or take yourself back to when the playoffs were first proposed, people were saying that's unfair, the third place, shouldn't happen. And Benty's used a great example there, Sheffield United, Sunderland, just last year. There were 14 points between the two. Sheffield United were superb in the season. They were unlucky that they didn't go up automatically, but just had two even better sides. They absolutely smashed Sunderland in the final itself, and yet somehow lost.
Yes.
That's football. That's the playoffs, and we accept that now. So the more I've been thinking about it all day, the more I'm thinking, do you know what? If it brings a couple more teams into play going into the last game of the season, then isn't that really exciting? And then the playoffs itself, that's become really exciting, and we've accepted that, where when it initially came out, we weren't happy with it. So I know you're not overly happy with it. You're more Andy's side of you, but I think I'm going with Benty.
No, it's not that listen, everything has to change. We have to have revolution at times.
It doesn't have to. You don't have to.
No, I realise that. Okay, maybe you don't have to, but I'm always open to new ideas. It's like the introduction of technology into football in general. Wasn't sure about it at first. Then VAR, obviously I'm going forward now even into the introduction of VAR.
And now you're still not sure.
Well, actually, I don't mind it. I don't mind it because I think the human element is always going to have an issue. Yeah. It's always going to be subjective. We're always going to have problems with VAR.
I'm with you on that, by the way, in VAR. I thought I was in the minority, but you've...
No, I'm very much in that. I think
it's the people making the decisions.
Exactly. It's the human side of it. It's not the actual technology that's wrong, unfortunately, in this case. But anyway, getting back onto the playoffs, it's not that I'm a bit like you said at the start. If it ain't broke, why fix it? It doesn't seem to me that we need to change it, but it could be, like you say, make it more of an exciting end to the season because you're adding more teams into this. There's obviously a bit more of a cash cow, I suppose, with more teams involved in the playoffs as well. But I've always been more of the thinking, and you rightly pointed out Sheffield United, how well they did to finish 14 points clear of the team that then beat them eventually in that playoff final. If I was going to change anything personally, and look, a lot of people would disagree with this, I'd rather see the third place team go straight to the Wembley final. So that's given them one advantage already. Then you are still extending the playoffs a little bit because you're going down, in this case, to 7th to include them in that. Then you have the regular two-legged semi-finals to then have the right to get through to the final. And you're giving that third place team a slight advantage because they've earned it, because they got to third.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say to that is you're right, because you got straight through to the final. But actually, how many days and therefore possibly even weeks have you not played?
And
then suddenly you'll go into the final, the richest game in world football, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good
Said that
point.
A few times. Undercooked.
Yeah. There is that point.
So I don't think...
Scrap that idea then. Scrap it. It's not going to work. Scrap it.
You haven't fought for that idea very well then, Nat.
You're the footballer, you know. I don't know.
To say I'm right. You can certainly argue my case. Look, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think worst case scenario, if it stays how it is, it's still really exciting. But I think if it does bring an extra couple of teams into action in the last day of the season, that makes it even more exciting.
But haven't we seen that anyway of late? A lot of the leagues are highly competitive towards the end. They're only missing out by a point or two.
Yeah, but then you're adding a couple more teams to it. So, look, I'm looking at the table from last season where Blackburn finished 7th on 66 points, 2 points behind Bristol City, finished 6th. Millwall were the same points as well. West Brom were only 2 points off those two. And so were Middlesbrough. So those two teams would have been, more involved in the last game of the season. So I think you're just making sure that for supporters, for whether it's the casual fan as well, you're keeping it as exciting as possible. And there's not 10 or so teams where the season's done. It's finished. Doesn't matter how it finishes. Sand between the toes, and they're just thinking about their holidays.
And how do you feel about it just being in the Championship, as suggested?
I don't see the point in it only being in the Championship. If you're going to do it all 3 divisions. The National League, as you rightly said, are already doing it. Why are we starting in the Championship, which actually, if you want to trial something, you trial something a bit lower down, don't you? Just go all in. Just do it for a year and see what happens.
We'll all be like, this is a mess.
Carnage.
It doesn't work. Scott Minto, blame him.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And Darren Bent.
And Darren Bent as well. Yeah, quite right. Let's make name and shame. Name and shame. Next up, we're going to look ahead to a massive weekend in the Premier League as it returns from this international break. A reminder, after 10, Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara will be taking your calls on the Sports Bar, so get your calls into them already. 03717 2233 44. You're listening into Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BeGambleAware.org. A very good evening to you. This is Kickoff. This is talkSPORT, and it is Scott Minto, the former Chelsea defender, alongside me, Natalie Sawyer. We're taking you through until the Sports Bar at 10, and it's time for us to take a look at the latest football action with Ladbrokes.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
And after the first international break of this season, the Premier League returns this weekend.
The Premier League is back in session. What a goal! The roof has just been ripped off Anfield.
Well, this is absolutely remarkable. Nottingham Forest 0, West Ham United 3.
Nuno Espirito Santo sacked by Nottingham Forest.
Never ever predict what happens in the Premier League.
And is ready to return to the Premier League.
Salah comes into the box. It's left. Engamoa to finish it. He's won it. Rio Engamoa, the teenager. In comes the corner. It's flicked on at the near post, and João Pedro is there to head it in.
It is Sunderland 2, Brentford 1.
Daniel Levy has stepped down from his role as executive chairman after nearly 25 years.
Now Haaland on the turn. Of course he scores. This is the Manchester derby.
Oh, and he's put it in the back of the net. Manchester United 3, Burnley 2 from the penalty spot.
Football, honestly, never changed. Domestic football back.
Indeed, and it all returns then on Saturday, and it starts with the 12:30 kickoff at the Emirates. Arsenal against Nottingham Forest. Then there's a whole host of 3 o'clock kickoffs. Bournemouth, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Sunderland, Villa head to Everton, Leeds visit Fulham, and Newcastle take on Wolves. Then there are 2 bonus games. Well, I say bonus, but there are 2 evening games on Saturday. First, a London derby involving West Ham and Spurs. That one kicks off at 5:30. And then there is another London derby, this time a West London derby, as Brentford host Chelsea in an 8 o'clock kickoff. Then there are 2 games on Sunday to look forward to. Burnley take on Liverpool before the Manchester derby at the Etihad. So, Scott, quickly, just running through what I said there, any of those that pique your interest?
Well, look, the Manchester derby is massive, and it's interesting. I was speaking on the All Access podcast with Sam Matterface and Alex Crook this morning as well about how, and Crookie was right, he's a big United fan. He's delighted, by the way, Onana's gone.
Oh,
so
yeah. Yeah, from many a chat with him about him,
yeah,
yes.
Very happy with that. I still don't get the Donnarumma going to City and not to United. You know, he's saying it's the wages and possibly up to £500,000 a week. I'm not sure it's that much, but if there's one position that United needed, it was goalkeeper. City didn't because of James Trafford, but when you got someone like Donnarumma come up on the market, I kind of get it, but he's not brilliant with his feet. I mean, look, who am I to question Pep? I was at the Brighton game and they should have put Brighton to bed. They really should have done by half-time. Erling Haaland scored, but should have had a hat-trick. But they're still showing their vulnerability. The empire has fallen. The emperor's still there. He's trying to build another empire, and it will take time. It will. It may take another year. We'll have to wait and see. But United, I don't think it's all doom and gloom as such. What I saw in the Arsenal game, where actually they were the better side, we saw bits of the Fulham game and also the last game they played. And let's forget about the Grimsby match. They just need to be doing it for longer. I can see what Ruben Amorim is trying to do. And I think this is almost the perfect game for United. I really do, because most people will be thinking that City will probably go on and win this, and yet they have shown their vulnerability. And I think United have shown in the Manchester derbies, even when City are at their best, they can lift themselves and grab a result. So that's obviously one. Obviously, Brentford, Chelsea. Where do you want to go with that? I didn't say that.
Well, we'll talk about that one a bit later on, because that one is going to be live on talkSPORT. But just quickly going back onto Manchester City, like you were saying there, and in particular that Brighton defeat, which was their last time out. What went wrong then? How did Brighton turn it around if City were so on top?
I think they've always shown their I say always, in the last season, their vulnerability. Again, I try to sort of say, I don't think, I mean, even I can't even understand how they can win 4 top-flight titles on the spin. That's never been done before in the 135-year or whatever of top-flight English football. You know, not even Sir Alex Ferguson could do it, not even Bob Paisley back in the day, you know, the Huddersfield sides of the 30s and Arsenal's as well. So to keep on going to the well, I was really surprised that they won that 4th consecutive one. I think Pep was on his way to go. I know he was interviewed or wanted to be interviewed by England and also Brazil. He didn't sign a new contract. He was thinking maybe one more year and then I'll go. And then he felt he couldn't leave after it, falling off a cliff last season. It takes time, that it really does, to go again, to get that blend that they had. So what did Brighton do? That they stayed in the game. They counter-attacked very well. They've got excellent wide players. And they're vulnerable on the break. Rodri is not yet back to how he was. Once he is, he'll offer a lot more protection. But he might pick up more injuries because he's been out for so long. So it will take a little bit of time. And this is where the likes of Liverpool and Arsenal, want to try and get as far ahead as possible, while City are still waiting to click. But once they've clicked, I tell you, they won't be a million miles away from where they were.
When you just said there about it, Pep potentially linking to England job, the Brazil job, seemingly wanting away, the Manchester City job, do you think he might have lost a little bit of sparkle?
I don't think he lost the sparkle. I think, again, I don't know, but I'm guessing that, Chiqui Begiristain was left and he's probably thinking, do you know what, I've got a year left on my contract. Actually, I don't know where I'm going to be in a year's time. Chiqui's gone. Hugo Viana's come in. I'm not going to be as dominant a figure for this particular season, and maybe this group of players can have one more season. They already had that one more season. So again, I go back to, they created history. No side in English football has ever done 4 top-flight titles. So to ask them to do it again, I don't think he has. I just think the Premier League is brutal. It's ruthless. And to think that suddenly he can click his fingers, make a few signings, and they're going to be as good as they were, and, De Bruyne at his best, and Sergio Aguero, and even Erling Haaland as well. It takes time for these players to come in.
Obviously, you mentioned Donnarumma. Manchester United did sign a goalkeeper late on in the window as well, in Senna Lommens from Royal Antwerp. Do you think both of those will start?
No. I don't. I think off the back of an international break, I think is a lot to ask anyway. And to make your debut, as experienced as Donnarumma is, no, I don't see it. I think both will eventually be the number ones, but I don't think they'll start this weekend. Do you remember it was this time last year where Liverpool started well and then Arne Slot kind of played what was his best team in inverted commas, but they'd travelled a lot and they lost to Nottingham Forest. I think he learned exactly what the Premier League was about there. So I think it's really difficult after international breaks to predict 11s because you don't know where they are, where these players are, how far they've travelled, where they are on a physical level, red zone or not. But I'd be very surprised if either of these goalkeepers will be starting this, but they will eventually be the number ones. And I feel for James Trafford because he was meant to be the number one.
What a scenario.
When I worked on Spanish football, Pep did it and a lot of the managers do. They have one manager for the league and another manager for the cups. What he does for the Champions League, I'm not sure. But I know that James Trafford will get his minutes, but I don't think it will be in the Premier League eventually.
No. You were mentioning there Alex Crook, our chief football correspondent, who was rejoicing in Onana leaving.
Good way of describing it.
His club. How does he feel about his side, though, after just 3 games, in the sense of, especially that front line, that is still going to get to grips with each other, with Mbeumo, Cunha, Šeško as well. Did he mention how he feels about them, or how do you assess them?
Well, I look at them and I still feel that he's been a fantastic player and he's Premier League ready. I didn't see the point in buying 2 number 10s because Bruno Fernandes now has got to drop back and be a 6. So not only do you lose a bit of him in the final third, but you also don't quite get the defensive stability that you want of an athletic. Obviously they wanted Carlos Baleba, but they weren't for sale at the moment. The 2 positions, I think, after getting a number 1 and the striker was goalkeeper and a central midfielder. So, again, slightly surprised Donnarumma didn't happen.
Or Emi Martinez?
Emi Martinez is a really good one. When you the weight of that Manchester United shirt, arguably the biggest club in the world. I mean, Liverpool fans will argue it's not even the biggest in the country, but one of the biggest. That goalkeeper's role is so tough, just like it is for the striker as well. You need ready-made senior pros playing as a striker and as a goalkeeper. So when things don't go well, they're able to handle it, as we saw that Højlund didn't. I'm slightly concerned about the keepers that they've got. Manchester United, we'll have to wait and see what can happen there. Talent is one thing, character is another. And I played against the likes of Roy Keane, David Beckham, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs. These were super talented players, but had that character, that even when things weren't going well, I still have nightmares about it. When I was at West Ham, we went 1-0 up at Old Trafford. We made them angry and we lost 1. Honestly, it was like, don't poke the bear. Keep it 0-0 as long as possible. But my
How
point
long did you have a 1-0 lead for?
I can't remember, not very long, but don't talk about it anymore. I'll wake up in cold sweat. But my point is, you had leaders, not just talented players, you had leaders, and Manchester United have been missing that for a long time. But you need the players in the right positions as well. Key positions. Striker, goalkeeper, for me, are the two key positions. Goalkeeper will have to wait and see. Sesko, look, I hope he does well, but it doesn't bother me whether he takes a bit of time and hasn't played well so far or hasn't even started many games. But for him to be the last outfield player to take a penalty, and I don't care whether he's got cramp or had a bit of a niggle, he actually stepped up and took it really well. But could you imagine Alan Shearer, Ian Wright, Michael Owen?
So what message does that send to everybody else?
Not a good one.
No.
Not a good one. If Alan Shearer's in that team and he's just made that signing, do you think he's number 10 in penalties? I don't care if he's on one leg. He's saying, I'm in that top 5. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's a tough gig, that, playing for Manchester United. It's, as I say, they are a million miles away from where they used to be, and the team that I played against, we'll have to wait and see. But, this could be a way to start it. But we've said that many times before with Manchester United. They need to build it consecutive wins.
When you look at the table, which I know we shouldn't be looking at the table right now because it's very early, but they're 9th. They've got 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. The whole host of teams below them that you would not expect to be where they are right now. As I say, it's very early on. But Manchester City are below them. Newcastle are below them. Aston Villa are below them too. Are we blowing this up far too much when it comes to Manchester United, just based on what happened last season? Bear in mind, Ruben Amorim, when he took over at Sporting, the first full season he had was revolutionary, and I think they went on to win the title. I'm not saying that by any means this year, of course, but do you know what I mean? Are we just blowing it up and not really thinking, actually, he's not doing a bad job at present?
No, you can't say he's not doing a bad job. I mean, to finish 15th last season was...
No, I'm talking about now, though, the now.
Don't look at the table.
Okay.
At this moment in time, look at the performances. For every, Manchester United, Newcastle, whatever, I could say, with respect, Everton, Sunderland, Bournemouth, Palace are above them at the moment. So, look, let's see it after 6 to 8 games and see where they are. Again, I look at the performances and I say 30 minutes here, 45 minutes there. They were the better side against Arsenal, but Arsenal ground the way to win because they know how to win at the moment. There's a team in there, but it's going to take time to develop.
Okay.
But he needs to win games. He needs to win games.
Huge game at the Etihad, then the Manchester Derby kicking off at 4:30 on Sunday. That's all thanks to Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over, begamblerware.org.
The big preview on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. Get a free bet every week of the season and a big boost every day. That's Ladisfaction. Minimum £5 bet. Conditions apply. 18 plus gamblerware.org.
Well, if you fancy a little bit more of Scott Minto and getting his hot Premier League takes, then why not tune into Premier League All Access alongside Sam Matterface and Alex Crook. That is the Premier League All Access podcast, where you get your podcast from, where they preview all of the weekend's matches to look forward to. And don't forget, we'll be bringing you 2 exclusive Premier League commentaries on talkSPORT on Saturday as Arsenal host Nottingham Forest. That's at 12:30, while Brentford take on Chelsea at 8. You're listening in to Kickoff on talkSPORT with Ladbrokes. It's 18 and over. BigGambleAware.org. We'll continue to look ahead to the return of the Premier League next. This is Kickoff on talkSPORT. What is it, 9:50? Not long to go then until the sports bar is back with Jason and Jamie. But right now you're listening in to the former Chelsea defender Scott Minto and me, Natalie Sawyer. Let's continue, shall we? Our look ahead to the return of the Premier League this weekend.
Well, you've been talking Brentford the whole break.
Oh, hello. We were just having a nice conversation.
No, we were. Of course we were.
But
you want to go there?
Well, I was going to say, because there are a couple of London derbies that are taking place on Saturday.
And West Ham Spurs, massive.
Exactly. So, yeah, West Ham Spurs followed them by Brentford Chelsea. 2 evening games, shall we say, 5:30 and then an 8 o'clock kickoff. So where do you want to go first?
Well, I think we should get your bees in.
Oh, gosh. Go on then. Shall we start?
Yeah, go on.
Brentford then hosting Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, hosting at the G-Tech Community Stadium, I should say. I will be there.
Yeah.
I'm working beforehand, but I shall be hot-footing it there.
Okay.
Providing all the transport links work, etc. But anyway, before we get into it, yeah, I know. Let's hear from one of the Brentford players. He's been speaking exclusively to talkSPORT. That is Keane Lewis-Potter, and said he's enjoying working with Keith Andrews so far.
Yeah, it's been very good. We had a very, very good pre-season with Keith, and he's put his tactics towards us. I feel like we haven't changed too much in terms of what we're going to do as a team, as a group. We've kept them things from last year. Obviously, Keith was here last year also, and he had a big part in that. So, yeah, like I say, we've added some little things to it, and yeah, I feel like we're in good place right now.
Okay, so that's Keane Lewis-Potter, who kind of is playing left back really now for Brentford. More of a winger when he first came in, but is a left back now and doing brilliantly well, I must say, especially when he was first asked to do that role, which he was most unaccustomed to, but is really taken to it now. I mean, I've obviously seen Brentford in the flesh just the once, which was the Villa game, which we won 1-0 at home.
I saw the Bournemouth game for talkSPORT.
Yes. Well, what did you make of them? Because in all fairness, from what and I'm only judging them on one game, there wasn't much of a change. The one thing I will say that Keith has got is he got a lot of players back from injury. So Rico Henry is now available. Aaron Hickey, who did brilliantly for Scotland, by the way, in the international break at right back, is also available. Obviously, we have a few new signings to still bed in, but there's there's quite a nice sort of squad choice now. For Keith.
And I really like even Kelleher as well.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him at Chelsea, to be totally honest with you. So I think that's an upgrade on what you had before. You're right to mention Hickey and Henry as well. I think they're excellent fullbacks. And again, the job that Thomas Frank has done, when you think about those two, who have been out for so long now and haven't played together for well over a year, more than that. I think Dango Ouattara is going to be a really good signing.
Mm-hmm.
But look, I know Keith really, really well. But I think anyone coming into that job following Thomas Frank, I think would have found it difficult. And then the top players that you've had that have now gone, the goal,
the captain as well.
Goals that have gone, the captain, the influence off the pitch. Again, I'm very much... what you don't see is really important in the dressing room, not just on a match day, but on a day-to-day training day basis. I think is really important. So he's gone now as well. So I think an experienced manager coming in would have found it difficult. And actually, it was a really good win against Aston Villa. That first half at Forest was terrible. Better at second half, but you'd lost the game there.
Yeah.
I thought the Bournemouth game was really good and they deserved to win. And only Iraola came out and said that, to be fair to him. I think it was a real blow losing the game against Sunderland in the last minute.
Yeah, we were 1-up for quite a while, weren't we?
Yeah.
And it was a game that we should have managed better. And there's a part of me that wonders if taking... listen, Jordan Henderson, I realise, might not be able to play full 90 minutes these days. I don't know, because he's not done a full 90 minutes for us. But you talked about the influence of him as a professional. I mean, when it got first suggested that we were looking at him, I was thinking, come on, we don't need a Jordan Henderson. That's not part of our remit. We don't tend to go for 30-plus players in terms of age.
Everybody needs a Jordan Henderson.
But I totally agree with you, especially now we lost Christian Norgard, because his experience is going to be vital, because we actually do have a very young squad. Plus, game management. He's going to know how best to see out games. Now, it's not always going to be down to him. He's got to be able to instruct others to do that. But I just think he's a vital piece of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
team.
And look, he got taken off with 20 minutes to go. But in terms of the fitness, you've still got to think about that as well. And other players have to step up when he's not around. And look, I think this is the perfect game for your mob. I really do.
I love how you always say your mob. Can't you be nice about us?
Well, no, basically. And it's tough. Brentford has been, I think, the job that Thomas Frank has done. And I'm really pleased for him that he's gone on to Spurs. And I think he's already shown in this very short time, although that was a big blow to them just before the break, losing that particular game. But I think he's shown his adaptability, his versatility, his coaching intelligence, how he is able to switch things around. But it's a difficult place to go, Brentford, and it will be here as well. And look, Chelsea, I think, have had a pretty decent start to the season. Talked about how that Josh King goal should have stood, and things could have been different if they'd have scored first, Fulham, but Chelsea found a way to win. I think Palace, they met them at the worst possible time, with Eze still in the Palace side. But 7 points out of 9, I think, is pretty good considering the summer that they've had. And now it's important, really, to go on again. But I think the big boys are the most vulnerable straight after the international break. And this is where Brentford away, don't like that little look you put in there.
I'm rubbing my hands with glee then.
But your mob have to go at Chelsea and in the first 15, 20 minutes. And if you start off really well, it's difficult to turn around because it's a nice compact stadium. That.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we did against Villa. We went at them pretty quick. So we'll see how we start this one, certainly. Very quickly, West Ham against Tottenham.
I want to mention quickly,
West Ham, obviously, it was all doom and gloom after the first 2 games.
It was.
What a
massive
result
win.
at Forest.
Massive win against Nottingham Forest, and hopefully that is the change. And this is the big game, this Spurs. So hopefully if they can get back-to-back victories and beat their biggest rivals, then maybe he can just kick on, Graham. And he changed the system, and I think it suits them better. I just don't think they've got good enough centre-backs. So protect the centre-backs rather than putting another one in. Have an extra midfielder in there. And, I think Callum Wilson, keeping fit, will score goals. The problem is, will he stay fit? I'm not 100% sure. So it's a massive game. Could be a sliding doors moment for Graham.
And what are the tweaks that you've seen from Thomas Frank and his Tottenham side? I know they lost last time out to Bournemouth by 1-0 at home, but what have you seen? Because you said you've sort of seen something already.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at the game against PSG where he went 5 at the back, the next game against Burnley where it's 4, and to be fair, Burnley had a couple of chances, but Spurs were clinical. The game against Manchester City, I didn't see it. I thought he'd go 5 at the back again, and he absolutely went at City, and it was a brilliant result, brilliant performance, and well deserved. So it's going to take time again for Thomas to get exactly what he wants over, but I think he's one of those who square pegs, square holes, and he'll get players to feel playing a game they feel comfortable playing. And I think in terms of to try and get the best out of a Premier League player, that's exactly what you need to do.
All right, Scott, that is it for us this evening. Thank you very much for your company.
Been a pleasure.
Can't wait to take on your mob.
Get your dog out of the bath now.
Oh, stop it. I'm going to get in trouble again. That is it from us. Don't forget, aside from our 2 exclusive commentaries, he's not in the bath still. Right? Game Day Live will take you around the grounds of all of the 3 o'clock matches from the Premier League and beyond with Adrian Durham and the team. That's on Saturday afternoon right here on talkSPORT, and we'll bring you updates from West Ham Spurs into the Game Day phone in from 5:30. Right, coming up here on talkSPORT, it's the Sports Bar with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy.